आवाज कसला तरी या लागलाय. ट्रेन गेले की काय तुमच्या मागणं?
नाही बहुतेक सर तो इको आला असं म्हणजे 2 डिव्हाइस ऍट अ टाइम चालू केले.
हा.
आता येतोय सर व्यवस्थित?
या आता आवाज येतो व्यवस्थित. आता काही इश्यू नाही. हो या चूज व्हर्च्युअल बॅकग्राऊंड नाही का? हा. अरे बापरे, हे येत नाही. व्हर्च्युअल बॅकग्राऊंड होत नाही. ओके, बिकॉज बॅक साईडला माझ्या पडदा असल्यामुळे येत नाही ते. ओके, नो बॅकग्राऊंड इज ठेवतो. ओके, डोंट वरी. So, what should we check? Let's check actually. Can you give me the screen sharing option? Can you enable the screen sharing?
Yes, 1 minute.
Okay, so I can see my folder now. So what do you see on the screen now?
We can see your folders, sir. The PDF you want to open it.
Okay, so you do not see the content that I'm actually sharing right now. You don't see that, right?
Yes.
Okay, let me
yes.
stop sharing. Now let me actually do one thing. Let me basically open these. Okay, so I will actually have that option ready. Okay, now tell me.
Hello.
What do you see now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now we can see your slides.
Okay, so let me try to progress my slides and just tell me if they're actually progressing. Okay.
Hello.
You see it progressing?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
Sir,
So,
madam want to talk something.
Yes, madam. Yes, sorry, madam. Yeah, tell me, madam. Huh. Dr. Desai, madam. Yeah, tell me. You were audible. Yes.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Tell me. मॅडम तुमचा आवाजामध्ये इको आहे थोडा.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. Yes. ऑलरेडी YouTube लिंक शेअर केली आहे सर. त्यामुळे आपण एक 5 मिनिट चालू करूया.
ओके.
सर 10:30 ला. तुमचा आवाज येतोय सर व्यवस्थित?
Yes, please. Can you please share the YouTube link to me too on my WhatsApp number?
We'll provide on the our group. Okay. Yes, sir. So please, sir, can you stop your screen sharing?
Yes. Done.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Sir, please stop your video. Recording online. Good morning, one and all. Am I audible? Please check.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. We will start the workshop within 2 minutes. Let's wait for participants. Within 2 minutes, we will start the workshop. Participants are requested to please mute yourself and stop your video. Thank you.
Hello, Desai madam, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
May I proceed, sir? Can we start?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Let me check whether the guests are available. Good morning, Uza ma'am. Hello, good morning, Dr. Oza ma'am.
I think Oza madam is joining.
Hello, good morning, Dr. Dole, sir. Are you there, sir? Hello? Hello? Hello, good morning, Dr. Oza ma'am. Are you there?
रेकॉर्डिंग चालू आहे.
मित्रा तू एवढा वेळ झोपलायस काय? पेपर किती वाजता आहे?
फोन करा ना चालू.
अरे तीच लिंक कायमपर्यंत आहे. तू लिंक आता ओपन कर. 10:33 झाली आहे मित्रा. ओके लिंक ओपन करायची चालते काय अडचण नाही.
All the participants, please mute yourself.
All the participants are requested to please mute yourself and off your camera, please.
अरे मित्रा विषय काय चालला?
Okay, thank you. Now let's start with the today's workshop. Good morning, one and all. A very warm welcome to everyone. I am Dr. Varsha Desai, Assistant Professor, VP Institute of Management Studies and Research, Sangli. Respected Principal Dr. R. A. Shinde sir, Professor in charge Dr. R. M. Letti sir, today's workshop convener Dr. R. M. Letti sir, guest of honor Dr. Nandakishore Dhaule sir, Dr. Kavita Oza ma'am, all faculties, students, participants, and my dear colleagues. On behalf of VPIMSR, I would like to welcome you all for the online workshop on how to write a quality research paper. Additionally, let's start the inauguration of workshop in the presence of all the dignitaries with virtual Saraswati Pujan and light lighting ceremony. So all the dignitaries, please move forward for the inauguration. Thank you all. Now I would like to request Dr. R. M. Yalatti sir to give a brief introduction about lead college activities and objective of today's workshop. Over to you, Dr. R. M. Yalatti sir.
VP Desai madam. At the outset, I pass my tribute to founder, director, and president of C Cyber Trust Kolhapur, late Professor Dr. A.D. Shinde Sahib. In the beginning, I, on behalf of VPIMSR Sangli, welcome all the respected resource persons, Dr. Dhaule sir and Dr. Oza madam. At the same time, I welcome all the faculty members from different colleges and as well as the research scholars, research students from different colleges who have shown the keen interest in this today's workshop on how to write research paper. As a lead college coordinator in VPIMSR Sangli, this is the 6th year we are conducting various lead college activities in association with IQAC cell of VPIMSR Sangli. Today, we purposely selected a theme for one-day workshop on how to write quality research paper, keeping in mind to inculcate the research quality among the students as to how to write the quality research papers. Definitely, this today's workshop is going to help all the faculty members and as well as the students who have shown the keen interest in this today's workshop, because in nowadays the research component carries a lot of weightage and as well as significance irrespective of the functional area or the subject, either it may be management science or the computer application. So considering that objective, under lead college activities, we have selected the two themes, two sub-themes. One is research publication in reputed journals, and the other one is importance of impact factor, indexing, and citations. And fortunately, we are very lucky to get today two great resource persons who have to their credit various research contributions in different international, national journals in the form of citations, indexing, and as well as impact factor for their different research papers. So with this brief introduction about the lead college activities, now I hand over the mic to the coordinator of the today's workshop, Dr. VP Desai Madam. Over to Dr. VP Desai Madam. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now, as you all know, today's workshop having two sessions. So let's begin with the session 1. It is based on quality parameters of research paper and how to publish the research paper in the reputed journal. Now, I would like to request Dr. Amit Sattika sir to give brief introduction of today's resource person. Over to you, Dr. Sattika sir.
The dignitaries on this virtual dais, Dr. Nandakishore Dhawale sir from PVPIT Budgaon, Dr. Oza Madam, Computer Science Department, Shivaji University, Kolhapur, Dr. R.M. Yellati sir, Coordinator of Lead College Cell, Dr. Mrs. VP Desai Madam, Coordinator of today's workshop, Professor Kalyani Salunkhe Madam, Co-Coordinator of this workshop, all the participants from different colleges, colleagues, and dear students. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all in this one-day workshop under Lead College activity. As you know, the theme of this workshop is how to write quality research paper. We faculty members, we are very familiar how to write research article, how to get it published, but particularly now we have added the word quality research paper and how to publish it, how to get it published in reputed journals. Because nowadays this is a requirement from NAC. As per the revised framework of NAC, NAC is expecting that our research articles should get published in some reputed journals, particularly in UGC care list or having indexed with Scopus. And hence it is very essential to understand the components which now we will require in the research article in order to get them published in such reputed journals. Now, you may sound it very critical, but things become very simple when we will get proper source to guide us and help us. Today, we are very fortunate to have Dr. Nandakishore Dhawale sir as a resource person for this first session, which will be focusing on research publication in reputed journal. So before sir will start his session, it's my sincere duty to introduce him to you all. Dr. Nandakishore Dhawale sir is currently working as Associate Professor and having a charge of Head of Instrumentation Engineering Department, PVP Institute of Technology. He is having a charge of Research and Development Cell and Center of Intelligent Sensors. Sir is also taking care of Institute's Innovation Council as a Vice President. Before I move to his previous international job profiles, I would like to highlight his academic qualifications. Sir has completed his bachelor's degree in instrumentation engineering from Shivaji University, Kolhapur. He has been awarded with post-graduation degree of Magistrate in Applied Science in Mechanical and Industrial Engineering by Concordia University, Canada. In his doctoral studies on bioresource engineering, he has received his PhD degree from McGill University, Canada, and he continued his postdoctoral study and awarded with post-PhD degree from the same McGill University, Canada. Sir has also completed certification programs in Internet of Things, microcontrollers and interfacing, AutoCAD, industrial automation, collaborative robotics and auto-guided vehicles, 3D printing for Industry 4.0, and bankable project preparation of report along with other courses regarding design thinking, intellectual property right, startups, incubation and entrepreneurship. With his remarkable academic qualifications, he has associated with Department of Bioresource Engineering, McGill University, Canada. He had also worked as a member of technical staff for satellite system quality control at MDA Corporation, Canada. During his tenure as an academician at PVPIT Budgaon, he has received funds more than 4 lakh rupees for different projects. He has established intellectual property sale at PVPIT Budgaon with investment of more than 4 lakhs. So far, he has been honored with 5 awards: Graduate Excellence Award, Walter M. Stewart Postgraduate Scholarship, L&D Stewart Graduate Fellowship Award, Graduate Excel Fellowship Award, and McGill Provost Graduate Fellowship Award. Sir has published 55 articles, out of which 20 articles have been published in referred scientific journals and conference proceedings. He has equally been excellent in the area of intellectual property rights with 2 utility patents from US and Australian agency each. He has been granted with 7 design patents and 1 copyright. Plus, he has applied for 3 utility patents, 14 design patents, and 2 copyright forms. Due to his remarkable contributions in publications and intellectual property right, Sir has been shouldered the responsibility of reviewer of reputed journals, including IEEE. Sir, we are very fortunate indeed to have you as a resource person for this workshop, and I apologize if I missed out some points from such a vast biodata. It was really challenging task to cut it down in such short span. And now, without wasting a single second, I request organizers to proceed with the next part of session. Thank you very much. Over to you, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for nice introduction of today's resource person. Now, I would like to request Dr. Nandakishore Dhawale, sir, to please start the session. We are really eager to hear you, sir. Over to you, Dr. Dhawale, sir.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you, yes, I already have the access to share my screen, and I'm right now trying to share my PPT. Is it visible to everyone?
It's visible, so please maximize. Full
Yeah,
screen.
is it maximized now?
No, sir. Please make it full screen.
Yeah, I did it full screen. Is it visible now?
No, sir. Please share the full screen.
Okay, okay, I got it. I got it.
Yes.
Just give me a moment.
Yes, please.
Okay, is it now visible?
Yes, sir. Fine, sir. Please, sir.
Okay. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Professor Yalati for Dr. Professor Yalati for introducing me. It's actually okay, because I have a big profile, and let's not actually waste our time now. Let's start continuing with the session. Thank you so much, everyone. Sorry if I forgot the names, and thank you so much, Dr. VP Desai ma'am, for coordinating this session. So let me start with number one thing is, multidisciplinary. So as my profile is, I'm a multidisciplinary person. I have actually did a lot of education and work in the areas of science, engineering, and management. And when talking about engineering, I've been part of chemical, computer science, civil, mechanical, electrical, electronics, telecommunication. But I am instrumentation engineer. So I did my bachelor's in instrumentation engineering, and from that was from Shivaji University, and I did it from PVPIT Budgaon. Right now, I work at PVPIT as well. So I'm an alumni of PVPIT, and I'm also an alumni of Shivaji University. So it's my honor to deliver the session for all my fellow colleagues and also the the students and the scholars who belong probably from the same university. So with this, the higher education must emphasize on multidisciplinary studies, and this is what has actually been emphasized by AICT chairman, Dr. Sahasra Buddhe. Okay, so I'm actually highlighting the screen at the start, and after that, my philosophy is what you think is what you do, and what you do is what you get. So always keep your aspirations high and don't stop to dream big. So myself, Dr. Nandakishore Dhavle, presenting via web to VPIMSR for a one-day workshop under the lead college activities in association with Shivaji University, Kolhapur. About myself, I've been already introduced, and today is March 4th. So let me directly jump to the outline of my talk. So today's talk, please stay focused. Everyone, please stay focused. There will be a lot of text that I'm going to be showing, and probably I'm going to be saying, okay? So in the first part, I'm trying to impart some knowledge, which is related to writing an article, and that also writing it for a reputed, platform. So in that first part, I'm going to show you so much text, and probably I'm going to talk so much. Okay, so please excuse me for that, but try to stay focused. Okay, because if you stay focused, something will probably go into your brain, into your minds, and eventually it might be helpful to you. In my second part, I'm trying to do the session in two parts, though we have only 1 hour, but believe me, I think it's possible, and we'll see it's doable. So in my second part, I'm gonna show you, I'm going to show you exactly some documents that are very essential when we are trying to write an article and get it published in a reputed journal or a reputed conference through the proceedings. So let's actually do it in two parts. And if you have any questions, there should be a lot of questions. Number one, like when we are attending a session, there should be a lot of questions. Even me myself, I might have a lot of questions. Okay, and if you have any questions, I think this platform might be available, so you can type your questions on the chat, and there might be some person who might be observing the chats, and then they can summarize those questions, right? So since we have only 1 hour, let's not actually interrupt or get interrupted. Let's just focus on the delivery of the lecture, and at the end we can focus on the questions and the answers, and depending on the time frame allowed, I would try to answer those questions, or maybe we can actually do it at a later time in future. Okay, so in my first part, stay tuned with knowledge. In my second part, stay tuned with hands-on. Now hands-on, virtual hands-on, that's what would be the appropriate word. And then I'm also going to give you some helpful tips, and we should also know the ethics. Ethics is a very important topic, especially for management people. They probably even have a subject, ethics, right? So let's actually just focus a little bit on the ethics as well, because this is something really important. Okay, so in my first part, I'm going to talk about the prerequisites, the structure of your manuscript, the references and article types, title, abstract, keyword, introduction, methods, materials, results, images, formatting, and English editing services. Okay, so these are all kind of theory. You need to know, some rules, some principles, right? And then in the second part, I'm going to focus on the plagiarism check, the structure of the editorial system, the guidelines that are provided to the authors, the submission system, for example, like the editorial manager, how it looks like. Then after submission processes, what do editors and reviewers really expect? I've been a reviewer for many journals. I've reviewed a lot of papers. So I'm going to share my experiences here, right? Then, the decisions, taken by the editorial office. And then once the decision is in a positive manner, then how or what are the different steps, for the production and publishing. Okay, so we'll actually try to cover this. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, great. So let me start with the prerequisites. Okay, so here in this slide, what I'm trying to tell is, when we are attending this session, I presume that, as already the doctor who introduced me, he has mentioned that we all know how to write articles, but now things are changing. So we need to know how to write articles in a reputed journal, right? So I'm considering, or I'm presuming that you already know, the different prerequisites that are very, very essential if you want to write an article or a paper or a manuscript. Okay, so number one, you first need to know paper, article, manuscript. These are somewhat like, synonyms. Someone might call a paper, someone might call an article. Now manuscript is something which is converted into a paper and article upon exception by the publisher, right? So paper, article, manuscript, these are all synonyms. Then number one thing you need to focus on is, like, what is the purpose behind writing it? Why you want to write a paper? You want to write a paper because you want to have it in the NAC profile as an institute faculty. You want to write it because you want to write it. Number three, maybe you applied for some research proposal. You submitted a research proposal for some funding agency to get a grant, right? So now you are done with the project, you're done with the report, and now you also want to, disseminate the results by writing a paper and publishing it, right? So there could be many reasons behind writing the paper, so you need to focus on that. Then who will be the target audience? Like, when you're writing a paper on your topic of research, who will be the audience? Like, you need to know that all these are prerequisites. Then what are the target platforms? Like, do you want to go through a conference and then publish it as a proceeding, which is also been indexed in Scopus? Or do you want to directly publish into a journal which is indexed in Scopus or Web of Science or SCI? Okay, so who are the reputed ones? Like, IEEE conference is a reputed one, for example, right? So I have actually been in the field of agriculture. So we have International Society of Precision Agriculture, we have American Society of Biological Engineers, we have Canadian Society of Bioengineering. So these are all reputed, professional societies. If we try to present something in that conference and if we publish a paper there, these are also reputed ones. These will actually have a, some kind of a weightage. Now these weightage factors, these are going to be discussed by the next speaker, like Dr. Oza ma'am. I'm also keen to interested to learn more things from her too. So what are the different types of, papers, manuscripts, articles? So among them, there is original research, short reports, letters, review articles, case studies, methods and methodologies. So out of that, me today, I am going to only focus on original research or a research article, or we can also call it as an article. Okay, so from that, you also need to know what are the aims and objectives. Okay, what are the aim and objectives? Like, we all have been through school, especially in grade 8, 9, 10, we have science subjects. And when we have the science subjects, there are, like, some experiments that we do. So the experiment, when we do it, we have to do a report, right? So that will, what it will have a title, it will have, the aim, objective, it will have the procedure, right? So all something like those points are, very familiar to us. So aim and objective, right? एम अँड ऑब्जेक्ट इज द मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टंट थिंग. लाईक आपल्या मराठीमध्ये म्हणजे सगळ्या भाषांमध्ये स्टोरी असेल, पण द्रोणाचार्याने जेव्हा विचारलं, लाईक की तुम्हाला पोपटाचा डोळा दिसतो का, पोपट दिसतं का, झाड दिसतं का, आजूबाजूचं सगळं दिसतं, तेव्हा अर्जुन एकच व्यक्ती होऊन गेले ज्यांना फक्त पोपटाचा डोळा दिसत होता. त्यामुळं त्यांना त्यांचं एम होतं ते फिक्स होतं की मला पोपटाच्या डोळ्यालाच बाण मारायचा आहे, राईट? सो एम अँड ऑब्जेक्ट इज द मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टंट थिंग. And we need to be very clear what is the aim, what is the objective. Okay, then also prerequisite, we need to know about hypothesis, what is null hypothesis, what is the alternative hypothesis. So these are I'm pretty sure that many of you or most of you know all this, right? Then we also need to know, like, let's say we have the aim now, how or what are the different ways we want to achieve the objective or the research study experiment, or if you want to review it, right? So we need to know the ways, we need to have some statistical knowledge, and experience on doing the data analysis and know the tools which we use to do it, right? So then access to text editing tools. Obviously, when we're writing a paper, when we're writing an article or a manuscript, the first thing you're not going to write it on a piece of paper, right? You need to know Word, probably you need to know LaTeX, you need to know many other, there are word processing or text editing tools, PowerPoint for sure, right? Then we also need to have access and know or have knowledge on graphical editing tools. There's papers, articles, they will always have tables, figures, images, right? So how we can do editing of those, that is also very important. That is a prerequisite. And then access to spreadsheet like applications, spreadsheet means Excel. Obviously there will be a lot of data, there will be a lot of tables, and we should be very good at all these, right? So these are the prerequisites before writing a paper, before writing an article or a manuscript. We should check with ourselves, do I know any of this? Am I missing with any of this? If I'm missing with any of this, how can I gain my knowledge and or hands-on in one of these areas, right? So there could be many workshops conducted by many other organizers which focus on these topics. Okay, so it's not a objective of my talk today, so I will actually stop here. Now, the second question, what means by reputed journal? Okay, so what means by reputed journal? So reputed journal is Scopus means the paper which we are going to publish. Is it indexed in Scopus? Scopus is an indexing system in which any paper that is published, if it is indexed in them, then it is kind of a reputed journal. Or as already the professor who introduced me mentioned, UGC care list. Okay, so UGC care list. Now this is a UGC care list for India. Okay, so that one I will actually show you. Then there is Web of Services, WS or SCI, Science Citation Index. Okay, so I have experience publishing in Scopus, in Web of Sciences and SCI. Now UGC care list is a very tricky one, and I will actually go through that. Okay, so for example, Scopus, there is a very, very easy way to search for a reputed journal. Just type on your browser, open your browser, type on your browser Scopus. The moment you hit Scopus, it will show you a page. Okay, on that page there is an option where you can either find something based on the name of the author, or you can find something based on the title or ISSN number of a journal. Okay, so here I used a keyword like remote sensing. Okay, and from that I try to find a list of reputed journal. Okay, now reputed journal, when we call it reputed, we have to check into these factors, what is the site score? How many citations did it actually receive in the last 3 to 5 years? Okay, how many papers are published in that journal? So how many documents exist on this in the Scopus database? How many of them actually were cited? Okay, so this will decide what is the site score. Again, you can click on the source title, the list. For example, remote sensing. If I would click on that, then I will get more details about the journal, and we will actually see all these points at the later time. Right now, let's actually move ahead. So what means by reputed journal? In short, this can be a reputed journal because it is listed in the Scopus database, and then it has a good site score, and it has a good number of citations, right? So you just do your research in the similar way. Then UGC care. Okay, so UGC care is meant by University Grant Commission, Consortium of Academic and Research Ethics. Okay, so in this, again, it's very easy. You go on Google, you type UGC care. Okay, it will take you directly to this site, which is part of Savitribai Phule University, Pune, means that is Pune University. So they have index, but what you have to do is you have to register, then you have to log in into it, and then it will give you the option to check the list of journals that are available in the UGC care list. There could be 2 groups. One is group 1, one is group 2. Now, it's very tricky here because many actually publishers, they will highlight on their site that, oh, we are like UGC journal, okay. But then again, on the website you find here alert list of cloned journals, okay. So you go inside the Savitribai Phule UGC care list, and you will find that maybe there are some journals you might have already published, and but now they are actually not in the list, or they're kind of classified as cloned ones, means they're fake ones, okay. They are predatory journals, okay. So be careful, be cautious here, okay. So when we think that it is a whatever UGC journal, but it might not be. So but it's very easy, you can find them, okay, just by typing the ISSN number or the title, right? So we can again do that later, okay. So let me go to the next. Now the last thing that you also need to know is, like, if you're going to write a journal in a reputed if you're going to write an article in a reputed journal, you need to have a very good experimental design. You should have a very good study, a very good study, a very good experimental design. In that, you need to have what is your hypothesis or research question, what are the aims of your study, what are the best methods for achieving your aims, do you have the necessary resources to carry out your methods, which positive and negative controls will you use, okay. Now this kind is more applicable, like, to people who are doing research in core science, hardcore science, like chemistry, physics, material science, medical, pharmaceutical, but for computer engineers, for computer science people, or for management people, uh, some of these points, can be, tricky. Like, maybe what is your hypothesis? Okay, fine. But which positive and negative controls? I don't think if it can apply there. Okay, so it depends on type of research, type of or area in which you are actually doing your research, right? So there is no like correct answer, right or wrong, but these are just like guidelines. Like, just consider these as guidelines. Whatever I'm discussing today, these are guidelines. It's nothing that what I'm saying is the only way. It's not the only way, okay. There can be many ways. I am trying to show you some guidelines that I have experienced myself, okay. So the number one part, now let's say the prerequisites, you want to start writing a journal article, right? So the number one thing is you have to first understand what is the structure, okay. So what is the structure? I want to write something. What should be the structure of writing? As I already mentioned, in in school days, we have experiments done in the science classes. So when we do the reports of those experiments, we have title, we have aim, we have apparatus, we have procedure, we have results, we have actually discussions, we have some questions, if you have any references. So what we do, we make our report within that structure, right? So there is a structure for an article that we want to write. So according to the standard structure, like people who have written articles throughout the world, they have proposed, not proposed, they have actually they are giving you a guideline which is called as IMR A and D, means IMR and D, okay. So I stands for introduction, M stands for material and methods, R stands for results, and D stands for discussion and conclusion. So in the article that we are planning to write, you have to focus on these 4 points. So your article should be structured in this manner: introduction, material, methods, results, discussion, and conclusion. This is the minimum. This is the minimum requirement, okay. And if you want to think about the writing order, first start writing material and methods, because we have done some experiment. To do some experiment, we have chosen specific apparatus, and we have chosen specific procedures, okay. So you already know that because you have did your experiments. You have actually did your experiments based on your proposals which you submitted to funding agencies, or probably to your PhD supervisors, or your your PG supervisors. And then, so you already know why you're doing it, and how you're going to do it, and what you need for that, right? So that is the most easy part which you should start focusing on, because it has very much number of knowns than unknowns. So it is always good to, like, focus on knowns and leave the unknowns right now on the side, right? So because if you start thinking about the unknowns, then you will have an anxiety, and then you will start procrastinating, and you will you might not actually end up writing your paper. You might give up. So focus on known ones. The most important thing, the most important points are the known ones, which are included in materials and methods and results, because when you do something you might get some results, and you focus on that, right? So you can write these first as you are doing your experiments and collecting the results. Very simple. Everyone should be doing it anyways. You do it because you have to do a report. You have to report it to your supervisor, you have to report it to the funding agency, so you have to do it anyways, right? So let's do it in a nice way here. Let's start doing it. Let's start the first step of writing an article with these 2 points. The next is, once those are actually done, once you're comfortable with them, once you have actually reviewed them through your supervisors or through your peers, then you can start on working on introduction, discussion, and conclusion. Okay, so introduction, discussion, conclusion, these points will come only after material and methods and results, once you have completed them. Okay, so write these sections next, once you have had a chance to analyze your results, have a sense of their impact, and have decided on the journal you think best suits your work. Okay, the last that you want to focus on is title and abstract. Okay, usually people, what they do, oh, let me choose a title, let me write an abstract. Okay, no, this is the last thing. Title and abstract might change over the time. It is a very dynamic topic. So you can change your title, you can change your abstract, but the method, material, results, discussion, conclusions, these will not vary much over the time, but the title and abstract will evolve. Okay, so don't worry about that right now. When you want to write a paper, this is the last one you want to focus on. So write your title and abstract last, as these are based on the other sections. Following this order will help you write a logical and consistent manuscript. Okay, this will be the way if you want to actually dig in into the reputed journals. Use the different sections of your MS to tell a story. You should have a story. Like when we go see a movie, when we go watch a movie in a theater, or probably in in our home through Netflix or OTG platforms, you will always like to watch something which has a story. If it doesn't have a story, you'll say like, yeah, mera time waste ho gaya, main faltu mein like all these things are going to come, right? So the same way, when you are writing a paper or an article, there might be someone who's going to read it, right? So he or she should feel that, oh yeah, there is a story in this. Okay, so there should be a complete story from the start to the end, and that is very important. Okay, so when you want to write a paper for a reputed journal, so now let's consider that you already got the right manner, the order, and the structure of your article. So let's look into these points into somewhat details. Now I have very short time, so I'm not going to go in too much depth. So number one, title, abstract, and keyword, right? So the title of your MS is usually the first introduction readers will have to your work. So first impression is last impression. You send your paper for a review, you share your paper with someone, they will look at the title and they will look at the abstract. So that has to be done very carefully. It should grab attention. It should have accurate description, of the entire story of your manuscript. So you write it at the end, but it has to be done very carefully. Okay, it has to be in a manner that it will grab attention. It will actually portray the story in a short format. Okay, so it should convey the main topics of the study. So it should focus on the study. It should highlight the importance of the research, like why you're doing this research. It should be concise, means it should not be too lengthy. There is actually a limit how big it should be, it can vary from 256 words to 512 words. Okay, for the abstract. And for title, you can have between 15 to 25 words. Okay, so it has to be like, all these journals, they will have guidelines and you have to follow their guidelines. These guidelines might vary to some extent here and there, but this is actually the average, right? So, and it should attract the readers. So as long as you can do this, your first step is actually done in a proper way. Okay, so again, the abstract must outline the most important aspects of the study while providing only a limited amount of detail on its background, methodology, and results. So you should not focus too much on your background, methodology, and results. Okay, but you should still have some points related to those. Author needs to critically assess the different aspects of the manuscript and choose those that are sufficiently important to deserve the inclusion in the abstract, right? So you take the lines from your manuscript apart from the section in the abstract and you start populating it in the abstract. That is what we do, and we have to do it at the end. Okay, and then we finalize the title. We finalize the title at the very end. Okay, so the abstract structure varies between journals and between types of articles. Authors should check that the abstract of their MS is consistent with the requirement of the article type and journal. Okay, so this varies, I already mentioned. So you have to be very keen about what are the requirements of the journals. Okay, now keywords are also used in the the papers, the manuscripts, the articles. Now what does the keyword do? So the keyword are the tools to help indexers and search engine to find the relevant papers. If the database can find them, then a reader will easily find them. Now this topic will be probably discussed by the next speaker of today's session. So let me just go to the next section. Okay, just remember that you need to have the keywords. Okay, and they should represent the content of your manuscript, and you should be very specific. It should be very specific for your field or the subfield. Okay, so these are the 2 points. And what is the use of it? It will help for indexing, okay, and for searching. So now we'll go to the introduction. So introduction should have readers with the background information needed to understand your study and the reasons why you conducted your experiments. The introduction should answer the question, what question problem did you study? So this is very important. What should be in the introduction? It should set the background of the study. They should understand why you're studying and what are the reasons of doing this study. Okay, so while writing the introduction, make sure your citations are well balanced. So like in the introduction section, we usually we cite done by this researcher previously, some this and this et al did this, or they used this method, you cite it, right? So you want to focus on how many you want to cite, what should be the number of citations. They should be current, they should be current in the last 3 to 5 years. They should be relevant, means we can just put any reference, right? It might not be relevant to the statement that you're making in your introduction section. No, that should not be the case. It should be relevant, it should be current, and it should be well balanced. Means you don't want to put so many references just on one topic and very few on some other points. Okay, so you have to balance them. Okay, so that is very important. The final thing to include at the end of your introduction is, this is the most important, that you should have a clear and exact statement of your study aims. Means through this research, we want to, or the authors of this research want to study this or identify this or conduct experiment to identify this, okay? And it should be related to the null hypothesis or the hypothesis, right? So when you're doing it, yeah, it's a null hypothesis. If it didn't happen, then it's an alternative hypothesis, right? So it should be related to that. The aim and the objective should be very clear, and that should be the last part of your introduction. After that, you directly jump to the next section. The next section is the one that I mentioned. You have to write it at the start. Methods and materials, right? You start with it because that has the known part, the very, very, very known part. The material method section provides the reader with the details on how you conducted your study. It should have, it should be built using subheadings to separate the different methodologies. Means in some papers, the author or the team of authors might have tried different methodologies. So they should not write it all together. They should have a different subheadings, different paragraphs. They should be segregated. They should be segregated and structured in a logical manner, which should have a flow, good flow. Describe what you did in the past tense. So anything that you did in the material methods, it should be done in the past tense. Means the rule of writing in English, grammatically correct, you should actually use the past tense there. Describe new methods in enough detail that another researcher can produce your experiment. If you did something, the method that you have described in this section, it should be very clear that, let's say, if some other reader wants to replicate it, they should be able to replicate it. Okay. Number 3, describe established methods briefly and simply cite a reference. Like, let's say if you're in your journal article, you said that, okay, we used a support vector machine. Okay. Or some technique, technology from, to support some different methodology for a marketing strategy in management. So that strategy, that actually method, who used it before, or who actually is the one who invented it, or who discovered it, you should cite that. Or support vector machine, what is support vector machine? SVM. Okay, but what is it? Okay, so you have to have a citation there. I did k-means clustering. Okay, k-means clustering. No, you have to have a citation. What is k-means clustering? Okay, and it can be an old citation, the first one, the very, very, very first one, who started with that method. Okay, if it is an established method. And then you have to also list all the statistical tests. If you did a Q test, if you did a T test, if you did a P test, okay, if you used R square, if you used RMSE, if you used SD, if you used variance, if you used a mean population. So all the statistical tests that you're doing and the parameters that you're using in the test, they have to be stated in that material and method section. It has to be there, okay, if you're using them. Some journals, some publications we write, maybe we don't use much statistics. Okay, so if you don't use, don't worry about that. But if you have used it, you have to put it in the material and method section. Okay, this has to be there. It should not be in the result, it should not be in the discussion, it should not be in the conclusion. It has to be in the material and methods only. It cannot be elsewhere. Okay, then results, right? The second part, which we have to start writing after material methods. So result section, simply state what you found, but do not interpret the results. Means, let's say in this test, what we found, the mean value of people who were affected by COVID in Sangli was, let's say, 10,000. Okay. Now you don't say, because this was only 10,000, because we don't have many old age populated people in Sangli, or you don't say that, you don't describe any of that. You just say, from your experiment, from your test, from your survey, you say the mean value of COVID patients identified in Sangli were 10,000. Why was it 10,000? How was it 10,000? It's not a concern about the result section. That you have to discuss in the discussions and conclusions. Okay. So this is what you have to remember. Like, result means whatever it is, just like that. Like the people, the people who are lawyers, they come up with some evidence. This is the evidence. That's it. Why this evidence came, how it came, from where it comes, that's a different thing. This is the evidence. This is what it is. Okay. So that has to be included in the results, nothing beyond that. Or sometimes, you have some things in your tables, then again, whatever you're showing in your table, again, you start writing. Okay. Don't do that. It's a replication. Whatever you're showing in the table, you just say, table number 1 illustrates blah, 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 blah. Okay. That's it. It's done. You don't need to explain what is that table in detail. Anyone who's going to look at the results section, if they will have figures, or if they have tables, graphs, charts, they will anyways understand that, because people who are experienced, they will only read your articles. And why they want to read your articles? Because they want to probably do something similar. They want to do a follow-up on that, right? Or they want to review it. So they will be experts. So don't worry about trying to tell them in depth. Okay, we did like this, this was the result, because this. No, don't say anything. You don't need an explanation. Okay, so this is very important when you write your result section. Do not duplicate data among figure, table, and text. A common mistake is to restate much of the data from the table in the text of the manuscript. Okay, now if you do this, your paper is rejected. If the person finds this in the result section, the reviewer finds it or the editor finds it, your paper is rejected. Okay, right away, straightforward. Include the results of statistical analysis in the text. So don't do any statistical analysis in a table form. You include the results in the text if it is like, only for statistical, by providing the p values. The p value less than 0.05, p value is greater than 1. So means it is it is a null hypothesis, or you need to have an alternative hypothesis, right? Those things. So you have to write them in the text, and you have to actually describe it. You have to describe it in the text. Okay, that you have to really do it. Then discussion and conclusions, right? Introduction, discussion, and conclusions. Material, methods, and results. You're done with your material and methods. Now you're done with your introduction. Now you want to focus on discussion and conclusions. Now discussion and conclusions will have everything related to your results, like the background of the results, the foreground of the results, and how they are related to your aim, how they are related to your objectives, and why you did the study. And because you did the study, that's why we can prove that this and this happened, and all those things, like discussion. And you can also say, like, maybe we need another study, we need a follow-up of this study to actually come up with some better conclusions. So all these things have to be included in the discussion and the conclusions. In other words, the majority of the discussion and conclusion section should have an interpretation of your results. Why my results are like this? Did you had a systematic error? Did you had a random error? Like, was there something because of that your data was not, generated in a proper manner, and that's why my results are not that great. If you found something like that, that's the negative part. You should write it in the discussions. You did an experiment, but maybe the outcome was not great. Why was it not great? Okay, maybe we need to do a follow-up. Maybe I did some mistake. That's why my results are like this while conducting the experiment, while conducting the study. So the next person who might actually do a follow-up, he should not be doing the same mistakes, or who should not be repeating the same mistakes. Or if they found something new, okay, yeah, we should be doing this should be a great thing, like maybe we want to start commercializing what we found in this research. That next person can actually take it for a further research, right? So these things should be in your discussion and conclusion sections. Okay, so compare your results. Again, you should also compare your result with other studies, like in your introduction part, in your literature review part, you have already cited those references. So is your results better than them? Is your results similar to them? Is your results actually worse than them? You should find it, identify it, and discuss it in the discussion, result and discussion sections. Okay, again, conclusion. Okay, briefly describe the limitations. You should I think I already talked about this. State how your results extend the findings of previous studies. If there is actually some significance contribution compared to the previous studies, you should put that. Like, how your result extended the findings of the previous studies. Okay, then the next part is, like, in your manuscript, you will use figures, tables, images, graphs, right? So there are some guidelines. So number one, figures will actually be part of image, data points, maps, schematics, for example. So images include scale bar. Whenever we have an image, you just don't put a blunt image. That image should have, considering labels for imported items, it should have scale bars. There should be indication of different colors and symbols. Like, if there are actually in your graph, you have, like, 5 lines. What is the meaning of 5 lines? You should have one dotted line, one actually, like, straight line, one actually crooked line, whatever. You should have a different color and symbol in your figures, images. Data plots, they should have label, x-axis, y-axis. If you have an alternative axis, like we call it as a secondary axis, you should have the labels. This is x-axis, this is y-axis, this is z-axis, this is secondary axis. there should be a unit, like, what is the unit on your axis? Meter, kilometer, kg, like, what is the axis? What is the unit? What quantity you're actually representing on your graph, on your data plot? Label and curves, data sets, and use a legible font size. Means don't use a tiny, like, where we have to use magnifier lens and, like, look into it, like, like the way we watch some electronics parts. No, it should have a legible font. Okay, it should be readable, it should be visible easily. So all these are very important. Just don't put a figure with a graph that you actually just copy paste from Excel. No, you should make it nice in Excel. You should make it very nice, readable, representable, identifiable, and then only paste it in your manuscript. Okay. Maps, these days actually there is a lot of work related to mobility analytics. We are all doing things with related to maps, for even for management, for CSE. We are all dealing with maps. Everything is now on the map. We put things on the map, like, where I want to go. Okay, let's check it on the map. The pizza delivery guy wants to go, like, how far he reached. I ordered a pizza. When is he going to come? The Zomato person, when is he going to come? We see everything on the map. So the maps, they should include latitude and longitude. They should include the scale bars. You should be labeling the important items, and consider adding a map legend. Okay, I will show you these examples, like, in shortly. Schematics, if you have a schematics, like schematic, block diagram, line diagram, these are the different terms that we use. Schematic, you should label each item, provide a complimentary explanation in the caption and the main text. Okay, so if there is a schematic, you should be having detailed information in the caption, like, just don't put figure A illustrates the schematic. No, what is it illustrating, about? Just give some more details in the caption. Figure A, schematic of image processing using such and such device for capturing after capturing images on such and such items, right? So you give some more explanation. Okay, when you have a schematic diagram, avoid image manipulation. Don't do manipulation on the images. You should have a good image. There are actually tools, they will identify if you're actually using or manipulating an image. If you're doing some Photoshop, you're taking an image from some other source and you're manipulating it, don't do that in your research paper. Don't do that. Okay, so images in the form of schematics, maps, data plots, or general pictures, the rules now, the guidelines, right? So figures and tables, not tables. Table, it should be clear and concise. It should have a legend and it should have a caption. The data should be divided into categories clearly. There should be sufficient spacing. Hello? Was there any concern?
No, sir.
Okay, sufficient spacing. Like, if we, like, normally a table, what does it have? It has rows and columns. The first row should have the headings. The first column probably might have, the keys, the primary keys, or the numbers, serial numbers, right? So they should be very clear. There should be a logical spacing. There should be, like, logical separation. Like, when we use lines, we have a grid or something, like, you have to be very nice while making a table. Don't just make a table, copy paste it from Excel and do it in the, in the Word as it is. No, you have to fit to the window. You have to have the size. You have to actually set the size between each cells, like, in the row order or in the column order. So you can make it square, you can make it rectangle, the way you want it. You can have a good font there. You want to make some things bold, like the heading should be in bold. If there are headings, they should have a parameter or the value with its unit, like, what unit you're using, kg, sometimes, like, for example, or if it is in rupees, like $sign, or if for memory, like, kilobyte, gigabyte. So they should have the units, right? So units should be provided, and the font type size should be legible. Again, it should not be requiring a magnifier lens to someone who wants to read it, or to someone who wants to go through the data. Okay, so this is very important when you focus on tables. Now, this is very important when you want to write an article for a reputed journal. You have to put this effort. You have to seriously put a lot of effort in making these things as per the guidelines, as required by the journal publisher. Okay, if you miss any component, they won't like it, then the article gets rejected. Okay, so focus on this very, very, very carefully. Okay, you have to spend time on these components that you are going to add in your article. Okay, so they are very important. Then formatting, the last one is like, once your paper is like, populated with all the contents, all the headings, all the sections as per the required guidelines from the journal publishers, then now at the end you have to focus on formatting, and you should have a checklist. Okay, so this formatting is, again, the format is provided by the document or the online document called as instruction for authors. Someone who wants to write an article, get it published, they have to go through the instructions for authors. Okay, instruction for authors, you have to refer it, and then you have to create a checklist. Now, number one parameter of that checklist, have you obeyed all word and character limits? So let's say the guidelines, the instructions on the author of a journal called XYZ requires you should have an abstract not more than 512 words. You should have a title not more than 25 words. You should have a paper not more than 4,000 words. Okay, there is a limit. There is always many times a limit. The limit may vary from journal to journal, but there will be a limit on the word count or on the character count. Okay, so have you obeyed that? You go in the instruction authors, you measure these in your article or in your manuscript, you compare it, then you say, okay, I have obeyed all the word and character limits, like such as title, running title, abstract, manuscript, text. Okay, done. Number one, done. Great. Have you included all required sections? Like, the journals, they will ask you, you should have a title, you should have a name of authors, you should have the affiliation of those authors, you should have abstract not more than 256, you should have keywords not more than 8 words, you should have an introduction, you should have a material methods with subheadings, with a certain format, like, a heading, italic, bold, whatever, no, and the number series that you want to use. Does it have a conclusion? So you have to check, does it have all the sections required by the journal? Now, the major 4 sections are IMRAD, right? Introduction, material and methods, results, discussion, and conclusion. These are the 4. These are common. Each and every journal will minimum have these. Okay, apart from that, there might be more required by different publishers. So have you included all required sections? Have you met the language requirement? Language, we are writing an article in English. We are not anglophonic. Okay, we are matrubhashik, Marathi, Kannada, Telugu, Tamil, Gujarati. Okay, મને ગુજરાતી આવે છે, मला मराठी येते. Okay, मराठी, गुजराती, मेरे को हिंदी आती है, मेरे को पंजाबी आती है, right? But English, there are 2 forms of English. One is US and one is UK. Okay, so UK people, they will have a different way they write and read or speak English, and Americans, they will have a different way they write, read, and speak English. Okay, sometimes there are some different countries like Australia, New Zealand, they also speak English. They have a different way, but they are more similar to UK, and India itself also, we are more similar to UK. US, they have a different way of speaking, writing, or exploring. So depending on the publisher of a journal, like let's say you want to publish in Science Direct, you want to publish in Sage Publications, you want to publish in Springer. Now all these journal publishers, they are from Europe. Okay, they will look more into like your language to be either like more from the US part, from the UK part. If you're publishing in Francis and Taylor, or if you want to publish in some other publishers which belong from North America, like Canada, US, then you should be using the US way of writing. Now I'll actually explain this later. Okay, don't focus that. But so have you met the language requirement? It's very important. Okay. Have you supplied all requested contact information? Now we give the name of the persons who are authors, but we've missed the affiliations. Probably we don't have the correct way of actually writing the affiliations. I'm going to show you those examples. Insert figures in correct location. They sometimes they will tell, okay, just put your figures tables at the end of the manuscript. Okay, don't put them in the first, in the body part. Keep them in the end. So then you have to keep them. You have to populate them in the end. Or sometimes they will ask, okay, provide them as separate files. And then when you provide them as separate files, they have to be given proper names for each files and the folders. So you have to follow those guidelines. Then have I followed it? Okay, this is the question. Have I correctly formatted the references? This is the most important thing again. References. We have a list of references. We have to follow the styling, the way we should actually list them, and it varies from journal to journal, but there are some reference editors, like managers, which it's a software tools. You can use them and you can manage them carefully, and I'll actually list them eventually. You have to also check, have I used the correct file format for your images? Some journals will say, oh, you should provide an image file, but it should be in PNG format. Don't give me in JPEG format. Sometimes they will ask, okay, give me in PDF format. Don't give me in JPEG format. So depending on that, you have to check, like, am I meeting these guidelines? Have you stated any conflict of interest? Let's say I had 5 authors in my article, and now I don't actually talk to the 5th author. Why? Because we had some issues. So now while writing this article, do you have any conflict? Okay, will he claim eventually his authorship in a different manner? Is there going to be any issues, any legal issues, right? So you have to state this. Do we have any conflict of interest? Have you included any regulatory ethics permissions? Like this actually more or less applies to people who are doing research in medical sciences. They use actually animals or people to do some studies, and they have to follow different ethics and rules. So let's not focus on this right now. Have you obtained consent from all authors? Now when we add the name of authors on a paper that we want to publish, all the authors, do they agree? Okay, you have to have the consent form filled by the authors and signed by them. Okay, these days everything is done by emails. Now this point, English, right? UK English or US English. So in your institute, you can try to create a facility, physical facility, like a service provider. Get all these, you hire some people, or you actually appoint some people from your institute and get them trained for IELTS or TOEFL through training programs. This will help them to improve their English, right? So when we write our articles, we can give it to them, and then they can actually review it and they can fix the English, right? So this is one way some actually institutes do it, or type with existing service providers available in the market, or you paid services available by the journal publishers. For example, you want to publish a journal in a reputed, you want to publish an article in a reputed journal. They have this service, you have to pay them, but okay, so they will fix the English, the language component. Either from the US or the UK perspective. Or there are some tools like Grammarly.com, Paraphraser.io. Now, I doubt if they are going to steal your data, right? These are all data, snatchers. So whatever you type into them, they are going to take it, right, eventually, and it could be an issue. So you have to be very cautious while using these tools, but you can use them in parts. Okay. So this is actually the part, the knowledge part. Okay, so can I take a break of 2 minutes? Can I take a break of 2 minutes and ask you a short question? Like, let's not actually all together come suddenly with a lot of questions. Let me ask you: is it clear? Have you felt that you got some knowledge? Probably you might have already had it, but can I actually get a feedback, like, was it okay for me to show this as a knowledge part of this session?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I, Dr. Neeta Deshpande, I am listening from the beginning, and I am already whatever the principle of writing the research paper. It's a very easy one. I have a doubt, sir, that I will ask later. But whatever
Okay.
now your development is clear, sir. Very clear.
Okay, thank you so much, Deshpande ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, now let me continue. So the next part is more like hands-on. Okay, hands-on, but I cannot do hands-on, right? We are virtual. Like, we are virtual. We are not meeting physical. Eventually, maybe if we get a chance in future, we might meet physical, and I can show you many things. Or you are always welcome to come to PVPIT Budgaon Sangli. Okay, Budgaon Sangli. You can come anytime, visit me in this institute. I work here from 10 o'clock to 5 p.m. On the slides, I have my phone number, my mail address. You can contact me, reach me via there too. Or the best part could be, like, you can try to meet me through the organizers of this conference. I really appreciate Shivaji University Lead College fund, as well as VPI, MSR, everyone from this institute for organizing this session and allowing me to speak. So you can always reach to them, and again, then try to see me through them, right? So whichever is feasible, possible for everyone. So next part now, like, hands on. So hands on, now let's assume that you had all those prerequisites that I mentioned earlier. You had a super experimental design that you followed, and you conducted your experiments, and you wrote an excellent article or a paper or a manuscript by following all the guidelines I specified in the previous couple of 20 or 30 minutes, right? So now the next part is, it's painful, but it is important, because what we do is, many times we don't write things, we copy paste things. We are lazy, including me. Okay, I am not saying that I am actually different than you. We all are humans, we all are people. We try to find shortcuts wherever possible. So we do copy pasting. We don't read an article completely. We'll just take some line from that article and just put it here and cite it. Okay, now this is a problem. This is a very big problem. I mean, it's a super big problem. Even if you wrote a nice article, you followed all the guidelines, you followed the instructions to authors from the journals, you did a wonderful experiment, you had a good fund, that you mobilized to um, create the resources for doing that experiments. You had everything positive, not a single aspect negative in the previous part. And now you want to submit your article to a journal which you have already chosen. You have already made your mind, okay, I am going to submit my article to this journal. I've did my research already on Scopus, and I've checked, okay, it's a reputed one. And you submit it to them. The first thing what they do is they will check your article, and it is done automatically. They will check for plagiarism. Plagiarism means if you are taking text, image, figure, data point, any content from some other source, and if you're putting it in your journal, article, manuscript that you're writing, and if you have not cited it properly, like, there is a way you have to cite it. You have to cite it, then it is not plagiarism. If you just put it and you didn't cite it, then it is 100% plagiarism. Okay, so if you didn't do a next step and you just submitted your article to a journal, they will check for flag. And if the flag content is more than, depends, some people can tolerate 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%, up to 30%. Okay, nothing beyond than 30%. I have not heard any journal accepting flag content or similarity content more than 30%. Okay, so it depends from journal to journal. So it is more smart to first check, get your article checked by a flag detecting software. Okay, it is a tool. It checks for similarities. Okay, if there is similarities in text, now people from your branch might be more aware actually how to calculate the similarities, because you're from software engineering or software computer sciences. So I don't need to explain those. But what happens is, you get it checked, and then it will show how much content is flagged. All right, and then you can change it either, or you should find a proper way to cite it. Okay, you can do both things. The second one is more easy, just change it instead of finding a proper way to cite, because that can be again tricky. It can take a lot of iteration. So just change, rephrase whatever you found that is actually similar to what exists in the internet database for articles or for any other, like, content. Just paraphrase it, phrase it, reword it. Okay, but then again, when you reword it, when you paraphrase it, then again, it should not change the meaning. It should not actually implicate the story. It should not change the story, right? So you have to be very cautious. So it is a reiteration, it is a reiteration, iteration. And anyways, please remember, research. We are doing research. This re is word, this re is a word which is iterative, right? Search, research, research. It's a cycle, it's a circle. You will keep on doing it. We will do iteration. It is an iterative task. Don't feel tired, don't feel exhausted. We have to do it. There is no choice. Okay, so get your paper checked. Okay, I'm going to show examples. Okay, once I complete my slides, I'm going to show examples. I'm going to show you of a document which is actually showing plagiarized content, and how you actually read it and how can you change it. Then number two, when, for example, we are Indians, like we are Indians, and we are very smart. Seriously, we are smart. We are very smart. I've seen actually people from the world, and we are the smartest ones. Like, we can say that, but people have been saying it already. Bill Gates has mentioned, like, Indians are the creamilias. Indians are the creamilias. Those are the ones who built the company called as Microsoft, right? So we are very smart. Now, the best thing is, like, you want to write a paper. Okay, you want to write an article. You chose a journal. You first check, like, that journal, you have to do a research. That journal should have normally it will have an editorial office. We call it as an editorial office. It can be a virtual one. It can be actually a physical one. Okay, they might be based in UK, US, Europe, right? Many other countries, or even India. Then you need to know who are the editorial board members. Among them, there are people which are called as editors in chief. Then they will have some assistants, which we also call as managing editors or assistants. There can be more than one number of editors in chief, and that's why more number of managing editors and their assistants. Then they will have technical editor, usually one person. They might have a lot many associate editors, and then the technical editor as well as the associate editors will have their assistants, right? So this is the structure of the editorial system, to whom you want to submit your journal, article, paper, manuscript, whatever you want to call. Then there is, so this is actually the scope of the editorial office. Now there is actually some people who we call as reviewer board. Okay, members of the reviewer board. They could be on the boundary of the editorial office, and they could be linked to the authors. So authors are not part of editorial office most of the times, but still there could be authors who are part of editorial office. Maybe an associate author. Editor could be an author who wants to publish in the same actually system. Technical editor maybe wants to do it. Editor in chief maybe wants to do it. So they could be, but I'm just saying that, okay, we are authors and we are not part of this editorial system, so I'm keeping us outside, right? So we need to know all this before we want to submit an article. And many times what happens, like, when you choose a reviewer, the reviewer can be known to you, or sometimes it might not be known to you, and the reviewer will play a very important role in getting your paper published, reviewed, or improved, or whatever, like. Okay, so understand the editorial system, and before that, try to first understand the structure of the editorial office, the people who exist in this. Okay, do you see any people whom you know already? Can you contact them? Can you try to reach them? Can you try to give your paper, let them reviewed, get your feedbacks, and then, like, then you can submit. So that will actually help you to get published in a reputed one, right? So understand this system. Now, author guidelines, instruction for authors. So before you submit your article, I've already showed you, like, what you have to check. So in the author guideline, these are the points about the journal. If it is open access, if it is subscription, I will tell what this means. What is the peer review and ethics, like now how you have to prepare your paper, word limit, styling, publisher, editing, checklist, data sharing policy, all these points, you have to go through it. Before you submit your article, you should go through all this once more, twice more, thrice more. Okay, so now once you decided, okay, I've decided, I went through everything, I've checked the editorial system, I know the editorial board members, I know probably some reviewers from who belong to that. Now you decided, okay, so you decided you want to submit an article. There is a system, there is a computer based system. You know, some ones are called editorial manager, some ones are called actually Suzy, like, you know, there are different publishers who use different systems, right, where you submit your article. So this is an example I'm trying to show you. This system is called editorial manager. It has been taken by a journal called as Computer and Electronics and Agriculture. Now in this journal, I have tried to publish 3 articles, and I'm showing it to you on purpose. All my 3 articles in which I was the lead author or I was the other author, they got rejected. Okay, there are reasons. I will explain you why they got rejected. So I know what is rejection. They were rejected. One on January 29th, 2021, so a little bit more than a year ago, and one like around 8 to 9 months ago. Okay, so they got rejected. They got rejected. Okay, but when you submit your article, this is the system. Through this system, you have to submit. I'm going to show you what are the different documents required while doing the submission. Maybe many of you know it already, but it could be helpful for those who don't know it. Okay, so after submission, once you submit, now mine got rejected, right? So what happened after submission process? Okay, now this itself is a big topic and it needs 1 or 2 more lectures. I don't have time right now, so I will not explain in detail, but I just want to show you 2 things, very important. They will do the initial check by professional in-house managing editor, which is the assistant to the chief editor-in-chief, to determine whether they are properly prepared and whether they follow the ethical policies of the journal. And the managing editor will consult the journal's editor-in-chief or associate editors to determine whether the manuscript fits the scope of the journal and whether it is scientifically sound. Okay, so mine got rejected. Why? One reason: the scope of the journal. The scope of the journal is based on the title of the journal, Computer and Electronics in Agriculture. These 2 papers which we tried to publish in this journal, we didn't had a computer. We had electronics. It is meant for agriculture, but it didn't had a computer. The apparatus, the setup, the system which we developed, and we did some experiments, didn't had a computer on board. If we would had introduced on computer on board and then we would had it added in the paper, then they would probably accept it for review, at least accept it for review. So these 2, they just got rejected. I submitted within a month, they got rejected. Why? Because they don't suit the scope of the journal, because it doesn't have a computer. Okay, this is a very highly ranked journal. It is very prestigious. If I would had one publication in this journal, now I know actually if I want to publish something, I should have something related to a computer. Hello. So because it says, right, computer and electronics, so and is a word, it should have a computer and electronics. Okay, it should not be only computer or it should not be only electronics. Computer or not, computer and, both have to be there. That is the scope of the journal. Okay, so once the manuscript passes, let's say if I was lucky, if I had a computer in that, then my manuscript passed through the initial checks, then it will be assigned, it would have been assigned to at least 2 independent expert peer review members. A single blind review is applied where author identities are known to the reviewers but not known to the authors, right? So authors don't know who are the reviewers. This is single blind. The double blind is the authors, neither the reviewers know each other. Okay, so peer review comments are confidential. I'm going to show you examples, and will only be disclosed with the express agreement of the peer reviewer. There is another one called as open peer review, where people, author and reviewer, both can know what are the comments, and they are actually published online. So this is something new happening. Okay, now let me just stop here. I don't want to focus too much on this, but just Like, I've shown you, like, I have published many papers, but I have also got a lot of rejections. I know what is a rejection. I know what is the pain of a rejection, but I did not stop. I tried other journal. I fixed my, like, what is missing. You just keep on doing, you keep on working, you keep on iterating, you keep on marching ahead. You don't give up. If you want to publish in a reputed journal, don't give up. We have published one in SCI indexed. It took us 2 years. We had like 3 rejections for 3 different journals, and then finally it got into an SCI index. You can imagine what is an SCI, Science Citation Index. That is the super highest, the one before the Nature, right? Nature is the most prestigious journal. So if we can publish at least one in Nature, we're done in our life, right? So this SCI is something lower than a Nature, but I have one. We have one. We tried, we pursued, we actually got it. Okay. So now, for example, I was telling, we are Indians, we are too smart. Okay. So before submitting the answer, before submitting the answer, first we want to know what are the questions. First, we want to know what are the questions. If we know what are the questions, we can make up the answers. Even if we didn't know the answers, we will find the answers and we will make up the answers. And if we know the guidelines, if we knew the guidelines in which we should be putting our answers, then we can definitely go very quickly. This is actually the beauty of actually, like, Indian people, like, all of us, including me and you. So the questions, what do the editors and reviewers expect? You want to write an article, you followed all the rules and guidelines and everything, but they will first check, is there originality, is there novelty, is there a significance content, is the manuscript having a presentation quality, means the formatting is good, the structure is good, uh, everything is in the guidelines, as per the guidelines. Does it have a scientific soundness, means are we really using science here? If you're using science, are we really, like, putting the equations, putting the um, the known actually theorems, are we actually applying them, right? So is it having any scientific soundness? Does it really interest the readers? And there is a rubric. So for all these 5 parameters, is it high, average, low, no answer? So usually a manuscript should be covering these 5 aspects and should get a rating on the rubric for all 5, at least the average one. Okay, if there is someone in the no, or quality of presentation is not good, scientific soundness is not good, interest to the readers is not good, then it's not good. Okay, so it will go reconsider after major revision. Okay, this is the decision recommended by the reviewer. If all are average, then they might still have this, but there is a greater chance that the editors will accept, because after the submission process, what happens, the reviewers will review and the reports will be given to the editors, and then the editors will go through the review reports. They will actually talk to the associate editors, they will talk to the managers, assistants, and then they will come up with a decision. Now, for example, as I said already, me Marathi आहे, तुम्ही सगळे कदाचित मराठी असेल किंवा गुजराती असेल, कन्नड असेल, तुमची मातृभाषा इंग्लिश असली तर तुम्ही म्हणणारा येस आय एम अँग्लोफोनिक. तुमची माझी मातृभाषा इंग्लिश नाही आहे, मग मी तर काय म्हणणार, आय डोंट फील क्वालिफाईड टू जज अबाउट द इंग्लिश लँग्वेज अँड स्टाईल. Okay, many people will consider that, okay, this paper is a good, the reviewer that we found, but he's also not that good at English. Okay, fine, they will find another reviewer who is expert in that language aspect, and then they will actually look into that. It is not my job, for example, as a reviewer. But if I'm submitting as an author, I should focus on these 5 parts: quality, significance, quality of presentation, scientific soundness, and interest to the readers. If my paper will get a rubric rating in the first 2 columns, all of them, if they are actually coming there, then my overall merit will be high, and then my paper has a greater chance to get accepted. Okay, Again, apart from that, they should also have, does the introduction provide sufficient background and include all references? So the introduction part, as I mentioned, it should have the citations, they should be balanced, they should be like, the current ones, they should be the relevant ones. So there will be a rubric. We will check that as a reviewer. Any reviewer will have to check that. Is the research design appropriate? The first thing, when you're doing a paper, you should have an appropriate research design. That will be again checked with the rubric, right? Are the methods adequately described? So the material method section, was it properly described? As a reviewer, do I really understand it? Are the results clearly presented? It means the results means you don't actually give the explanations, just state the results, right? So have you did that? Are the conclusions supported by the results? Conclusion discussion will be supported by the results. So are they? So these are the questions. The question, you format your paper with the correct answers to these questions so that you fit in the rubric on the left part, of the grades or the points. Then for sure your paper should get published. There should be no way why not. Okay, so then there are some more expectations. Do you have a potential conflict of interest? Now what happens, maybe let's say you wrote a paper and I'm a reviewer and I had a fight with you, like we, like let's say me and Desai madam, we probably know each other, but then suddenly we had a fight. Now I wrote a paper as an author, and fortunately or unfortunately she became the reviewer. Now she will know if it was a single blinded. She knows, okay, I know this author, hey, I have a conflict of interest. She will not say that I will have a conflict of interest. She will say that I will not have a conflict of interest. No, she should be saying it. Or as an author, you should be actually like, when you submit your article, you can list the name of the people with whom you think that there could be a conflict of interest. And please don't choose them as the reviewers. You can suggest the system, right? So did you detect plagiarism? Again, as a reviewer or editor, I can also check if there is a plagiarized content, right? So even sometimes the software tools, they will find it, but maybe sometimes they will miss it. So I will also check that. So you have to be very cautious with this plagiarized content. Did you detect appropriate self citations? Now, maybe I'm author and I put all my papers I wrote so far in my paper that I'm submitting right now. The new edition, and I'm just citing all of them, right? So as a reviewer, I'll need to check it. So don't add your cited references, your own references. You can add few if they are relevant, if they are from the current year, the current 4-5 years. If they're really needed, then just add them. If not, don't add them, because then they might refuse your paper, like in the decision session, right? So do you have any other ethical problems, like this let's not discuss it right now, so forget it. So then once your paper was submitted, it was actually suggested for 2 reviewers, it got reviewed, you got the good grades, for the rubrics in the left side. Then there will be a decision taken by the editor in chief. And there are 4 decisions: accept after minor revision, reconsider after major revision, reject and encourage resubmission, and reject. Okay. So this reject is the most scary one, because you did so much work, you did so much, you put so much effort, and your article got rejected, right? So this happens, but don't worry too much. Okay. If you felt sad, okay, feel sad. But then at the start, if you really worked hard, if you really followed the author guidelines, then it might not happen. You might fall into the first 3: accept after minor revision, reconsider after major revision, reject and encourage resubmission. So these are the 3 ones. These are the 3 ones which are the nice ones. The last one is the worst one. The second last one still implicates, oh yeah, there is a chance if I do some changes, then yeah, I will actually get it published, right? So these are the decisions. Now once the paper got accepted, there is some production and publishing related things. So professional copy editing, English editing, so all this has to be done. They will send the paper back to you. You have to check it thoroughly, and then you have to tell them, okay, finally done, I'm happy, please publish it. And then the publishers will publish it, right? So take home message: Take home message, choose the journal, spend time on understanding their authors, draft a paper, create a neat and clean diagrams in appropriate tools, creating tables, creating figures, perform the data analysis, creating equations, creating the citation, reference list, formatting all above, and everything as per the publisher's template, checking the content through plagiarism tools, revising the draft, drafting the cover letter, creating and providing a list of potential reviewers, completing all types of forms, submitting to the journal using the online submission system, waiting for acceptance from the review from the chief editor, waiting for reviews from the reviewers, discussing the reviews with the technical specialists from your scientific world by offering them pay, responding to each reviewer by preparing the reply document for each, revising the manuscripts according to the reviewer suggestions, resubmitting the manuscript for second review, waiting for response based on second review to do similar things, resubmit manuscripts again, waiting for the review response. If paper accepted by the chief editor, then wait for the final proofread and making final edits with the production team. If paper gets rejected, then start the process from the start by choosing another journal. So these are all the steps that you have to go through when you want to publish an article in a reputed journal. And if the decision was rejection, then don't get sad and just just start your wheel again. You keep on rotating until you find the final break and you have to stop, right? So this is a take home message. Now the best strategy that I actually did in my life was not always you have to publish in an article in a journal, right? You can publish it as a poster, you can present it in a conference, and then what you actually got from your poster and from your conference, you because it gets reviewed not actually officially but verbally, and then you can use that, filter all the things, and then you can draft an improved version and then submit it to the reviewed journal. So this is also another good approach, you refine your article by initially presenting it in the as a poster format, then presenting it in a conference format, and then submitting it to the peer reviewed journals, right? So this is what I've been doing for the last 20 years. I have a lot of posters, I have a lot of conferences, proceedings, and then I also have a lot of journals, right? So keep trying, don't give up, all the best. Now the next take home message I wanted to mention, so to include someone as a co-author, because I've seen in India people just add this name, add his name, add her name, we are all authors. Like, are you really, is it ethical to add names of people as co-authors? What is the contribution? Did they contribute in the research conception? Did they contribute to do the analysis? Did they contribute in interpretation, or did they contribute in writing of the paper? So if they contributed in either of these four, this is what the reputed journals will check thoroughly. Okay, so there are some ICMG guidelines. You can click on the link and then learn later why authorship matters, who is an author, non-author contributions. Okay, so take home message, for example, this is a paper I published a couple of years ago, Precision and Accuracy of Wisner. This is related to science. I do science, and then I published with people from different actually countries. Like one, I had a co-author from Canada, from Australia. And so this is my paper. We are all co-authors. I'm the lead author, the first author. So author contribution. What was my contribution? I was the key author. I wrote the original draft. Okay, ND is mine. I reviewed and edited it. I wrote the data analytic code. I did the data collection. I did the data processing. I did the data pre-processing. So these were all my contributions, in this paper. And all these reputed journals, they will ask for this. You need to specify this. Okay, they should have a funding component. Like, why are you writing this article? Where did you get the funds from? Who sponsored? What was the grant number? So anyone who you think is not eligible to become a co-author, you should add their name in the acknowledgement section, and you should also declare the conflict of interest. Okay, so these are the 4 things which are very important in highly reputed journal. They will ask this question. You should have an answer to this question. Okay, so if someone is not eligible to become an author, co-author, but he had some contribution apart from those 4, add them as an acknowledgement. Okay, so take home message 2. For example, I do work in a clustering tool. I developed one software, and then I try to write an article I first wrote it as a poster, then I wrote it as a conference proceeding. I had 3 conference proceedings, and then I actually got sick. I had some health issues, and then I could not complete my journal article, right? So then someone else took over that and they wrote the article. Now I didn't write the article. And what they did, the software that I developed using another platform. This author of this article, he took another tool, right? So then I could have been the co-author, but according to the ICMGA guidelines, I am not eligible, right? So I was added in the acknowledgement section. We would like to thank Nandakishore Dhawale, graduated from McGill University, for implementing the earlier version of the NS algorithm in MATLAB. Okay, now they did it in Python. When I did it in MATLAB. They wrote the paper. I could have been the co-author, but according to the ethics, it was not ethical. So my name is added into the acknowledgement section, right? So this is very important. This is ethic. This is about the ethics. Just don't add names. You have to contribute. Okay, so that's all. Thank you so much. I would like to acknowledge PVPIT Budga Sangli, my principal, NCS trustee and chairman, for allowing me leave on today for contributing in this activity. And I would like to thank VPIMSR Sangli, all management, office, administration, teaching, non-teaching organizers and participants, as well as Shivaji University Kolhapur, and the fund which was actually utilized for this presentation. Okay, so don't forget the start. As I said, what you think is what you do, and what you do is what you get. So don't forget that we belong to the soils of this nation, where many of us historically believed in the super divine blessings. So stay blessed by concentrating, meditating on the super divine with faith to succeed even more. When we say we concentrate, we are educators, or we are part of the education system, so we can concentrate on learning and teaching. You don't need to do separate meditation. If you are attending a lecture session delivered by someone, and if you're meditating, means you're concentrating on the speaker, that is equivalent. You can get the knowledge, you can gain the knowledge, and no one can stop you to gain the knowledge, right? So with this, I would like to stop the session, at least the presentation. And if you have any questions, or maybe I could show you some examples, samples. So let me know, depending on the time that we have that is allowed, we can we can discuss further. Thank you so much.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you
Yes.
so much, Dr. Dhole, sir, for your valuable input, sir. And sir, you have explained very nicely how to do the scientific research, sir. So thank you so much, sir. So on behalf of VPIMSR and all the participants, I would like to give you a big clap. Thank you, sir. Now, participants, you can ask the questions to experts. Please raise your hand, unmute yourself, or put the question in the chat box.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Please.
Dr. Nita Deshpande here, sir. Thank you for such a wonderful session. It was really great, sir. Let me say this is one of the most terrific training in the how to write a research paper I have ever attended, sir. To keep motivation on the notes, and which you have shared the PPTs, if it is possible, please send, so that I will keep on my desk, and so daily I have a glance of the same, and helps me to keep the momentum on to write the research paper, that is scientific research paper. Thank you very much, sir. I have one question, sir. Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Listening.
Sir,
Thank you.
actually, I belongs to the commerce fraternity, so in the banking sector itself. So I have to write a research paper considering the data which is available on the trends and progress reports of RBI. So we have to consider 15 years or the 10 years data. So is it necessary to insert the tables? Because some journals, as you said, they have the word limitation. If I inserted the table of 15 years to check the trend, okay, for the trend analysis. So directly can we go through this, whatever you have told the IMRD without giving the tables, sir?
Yeah, actually, it's a good question. I'm not from a commerce background, but I did work in special and temporal data
Yeah.
analysis. So your thing, so I did some work in forecasting, and probably your question is related to that. So you have a temporal data, temporal in the sense you have a data set that is coming from last certain number of years.
Yes.
And
Yes,
what you want to do is you want to probably do some data analysis on that, and then you want to probably analyze it, and you want to come up with some conclusions. So in that sense, you don't need to put the data in the paper, but when you submit the manuscript using the system, they have a special place where they will say, like, attach your data.
Okay.
Or you can say that, like, you can the data can be provided upon request. Means you specify that you can email me or call me over the phone, and I can give you the data if it is needed.
Oh,
But
and
then
even we can
again,
give the link also, sir, because that data
Yes.
is available on the trends and progress report. That
Yes.
is
So if
RBI
there is
data.
so if you have the data available somewhere else, you can give the link there. But maybe you might not be taking the data as it is, right? So the data you might be taking, but then you might be applying different filters depending on what study you want to be doing,
Yes,
right?
sir, definitely.
So
Yeah.
that's why you have to have the pre-processed or the processed data, and you should be storing it somewhere else, and then you should be providing that, because that is going to be the
Yes,
part
sir.
of the research that you did, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that
Especially
is
while
one
we are
thing.
doing the longitudinal study, no, we get a lot of problems because word limitations are there, and once we are giving 2-3 data comparatively, so word limitation over there, whatever we want to give the results or the analysis part, discussion part, that will be less. That's why I'm asking, sir. So not
Yes.
necessary
So sometimes what they do, so what the data that you have, instead of creating a table, you can create a graph, which we call it partial auto realization. Auto realization is like, how the data looks like in the form of graph.
Yeah, sir.
And
Yes.
you can create a figure, and then that in the figure caption you can provide the link where the data exists and what data was used to create this figure. That you can do, which it will not consume a lot of actually space or the words or the limits.
Okay. Very
So
nice,
it
sir.
is
Thank
called
you very much.
partial auto realization. You do that technique.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely, sir. Very
Thank
nice
you.
sessions. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else has a question?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Dowle, sir. Unless most of the doubts may be clear because we have explained very nicely. And because of time restriction, we need to move to the next part of this session, that is vote of thanks. And participants are requested. You can put your questions in the chat box. We will forward all the questions to the Dr. Dowle, sir, and definitely he will help you or guide you regarding your doubts. So thank you. Now, I would like to request Dr. Kalyani Salunke Madam to conclude session and propose a vote of thanks. Over to you, Kalyani ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon to one and all present here. On behalf of VPIMSR, I would like to thank all the participants, as well as I need to present as well as express my vote of thanks to all the members. Okay. So for the today's session, especially I would like to thank our guest, Dr. Dave sir, Nandakishore Dave sir, for accepting our invitation and for being here with us. Okay. So thank you, sir. We are really enlightened with your knowledge as well as the information which you have presented, where you have presented as well as you have highlighted some points like hypothesis, how to search a reputed journal, how to consider a citation point, as well as how a aim and objective of the paper is important, where we need to consider a structure like MRAD, as well as how to consider access over the editing points, as well as to technological application. So once again, I would like to thank you, sir, on behalf of VPIMSR. Thank you, sir. As well as I would like to thank our principal, sir, Dr. R.A. Shinde, sir, Professor in charge, Dr. M.M. Ali, sir, and convener of the session, Dr. R.M. Elati, sir. Thank you, sir. As well as last but not least, all the staff members who has contributed for the session, as well as the participants who are patiently listening the session, as well as the enjoy the session. So thank you all. I request all the participants to stay tuned because we are continuing next session and you have to continue with the particular session. So now I hand over the session to Dr. V.P. Desai, madam. Thank you all.
Which is on the system. I would like to request Dr. Ma'am introduce Dr. K.S. Oza ma'am. So over to you, Dr. Sadhu ma'am.
Thank you, Desai ma'am. Good afternoon, honorable dignitaries and everyone present here. Once again, welcome you all in this session. I am Dr. Vidyulata Jadhav, Head of Computer Department. On behalf of VP Institute of Management Studies and Research Sangli, I warmly welcome our resource person for this session, Dr. Kavita S. Oza ma'am, who is going to share her thoughts on importance of impact factor indexing citation. This is a subject in which we should all be deeply interested to improve quality of research paper. It is my honor, more than pleasure, to introduce her. Our resource person doesn't require any introduction as she is a well-recognized personality in Shivaji University. She is known for her best teaching, wonderful administration, and high achievements. Ma'am is an assistant professor in Department of Computer Science, Shivaji University. Her academic qualifications are BSc, MCA, SET, PhD. Her area of research are machine learning, NLP, and algorithms. She is a life member of Computer Society of India, working as a department NAC coordinator and ISO internal auditor. She has attended 5 orientation refresher courses. She has completed 2 minor and 1 major research project. She is a guide for MPhil and PhD. Already 5 students have completed PhD under her guidance. She is also providing guidance to international students from Sabaragamuwa University of Sri Lanka and summer internship guidance for Integrated Science Education and Research Center, Vishwa Bharati University, Shanti Niketan, West Bengal. In all, she has published 13 books with ISSN and ISBN, 56 research papers in various reputed national and international journals. She has also presented and published 35 papers in national international conferences. She has attended 30 workshops and 10 seminars. We are very grateful to have you with us, ma'am. There is a lot to say about Oza ma'am, but as you all are eagerly waiting for her session, so without taking much time, once again, let us welcome Dr. Oza ma'am. Thank you all. Over to you, Dr. Oza ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, Vidyulata ma'am, for a beautiful introduction.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
It's nice to hear your voice again after so many years, I should say, due to Corona.
Yes.
Okay. So shall we directly start? I'll start sharing my screen.
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am. It is visible.
Okay, friends, after a beautiful lecture by Nandkishore sir, it was an excellent talk. Even I could hear the last few minutes of the talk. It was really great. So now let's talk about the research impact, right? So what is research impact? When you're carrying out your research work and all, how good your research is, whether people are referring your research work, whether you're publishing in good journals and all, is your research impact, right? So research impact is often measured using quantitative methods such as citation counts, the H index, and the journal impact factors, right? We'll be looking at these citation counts, H index, and all as we go ahead in our presentation. Research impact is not only quantitative, but it is also qualitative. It can also measure the quality of a research paper along with the quantity of your research work. Okay? Currently, there is no one tool or system that completely measures the impact. This is a very sad thing, but there is no option for it. You cannot say like, okay, this tool is the right one, because there are many tools which exist which will measure your research impact, right? So each database or tool uses its own measurement systems, indices, data, and authority files. And it is really difficult to use these tools to compare across disciplines that have different research and publication practices. The tools which are used for science domain may not be used for social science domain, right? So each domain has their own research measuring tools, right? So here today we'll talk about two things. We'll talk about author's impact, author's research impact, and we'll talk about journal impact, right? So author's impact will show how we'll measure the author's research work, and journal impact will tell you the quality of the journal where the data should be, whether your research work should be published. Fine. So let us start with author's impact. Now, there's no one number to perfectly or correctly represent the research impact of an individual or group of researchers. Again, I repeat, there is not a single unique tool, right? There are different ways, and all the tools have their own algorithms to judge your research work, right? So an author's impact on their field or discipline has traditionally been measured using the number of times they're published and the number of times their academic publications are cited by other researchers. So here you remember quality and quantity both are there. When I'm talking number of times, that is the quantity, how many papers are published. And when I say how many of the papers are being cited by other researchers, that gives the quality of my research work, right? So the focus is on quantity as well as quality of the research. Fine. So what is required? If you can also directly, so the simplest way to demonstrate author's impact is to create a list of the publications and the number of times they have been cited. There are many algorithms which exist, which can calculate, which can analyze and calculate the impact of author's research work, right? Once you have the list, once you have the number of citations, there are algorithms exist which can be applied. There are some more common metrics and tools that can be used to measure the research impact of an author, like your H index, your I10 index, your G index, your citations, etc. Fine. So H index is one of the most popularly used measuring tool to measure the author's index, author's research impact, in fact. Fine. Now, so H index is defined as number of papers with citations number equal to or greater than H as a useful index to characterize the scientific output of a research. Remember the word used here is scientific output of a researcher. I have taken it as it is, so I put the reference there, right? So what H index does, it attempts to measure quality and quantity of the author's work. To measure this quality and quantity, what it does, it takes two things into account. The first one is the researcher's productivity. That is the number of publications a researcher has produced. That is nothing but the quantity, right? Productivity is number of research papers the researcher has produced or published. The second measuring tool is quality, the impact of that researcher's publication, right? That means how many citations the researcher's publication have received. Now, what do you mean by citations? Suppose I write a research paper and my paper gets published. There is someone who is doing research in the same domain where I have published my research paper, and that person is using my paper to refer, right? He's referring my paper for his research work. So he's citing my work in his research. So when he's citing it, that means my research work has a citation. the paper what I published is being used as a base paper or as a reference paper by other researchers will give me the citation to my work. Right? So this is the H index is really important because it calculates your quality as well as quantity of the research. Now, at least H number of papers have been cited at least H times each. So what does that mean? A simple example here you can see if H index, if an author with H index of 8 has 8 papers cited at least 8 times. That means suppose I published 10 papers, right? Out of 10 papers, my 8 papers are cited 8 times or more than 8 times, 8 or more than 8 times by other researchers, then my H index is 8. So I published 10 papers, right? Similar example, now I have 8 papers which are cited 8 times. Suppose I have the 9th document which is cited 6 times. Out of 10, the 9th document is now cited 6 times, but still my H index will remain 8. Why? Because for it to become 9, the document needs to be cited 9 times in order of the H index to increase to 9. So here it's not only the 9th document, but remaining 8 documents also should have the citation of 9 times, right? So H documents, H time citation, all separately, right? Each document should be cited separately 9 times. Then the H index will become. I hope it is clear. The H index, how it is calculated. It is very simple and important. Okay. Now, how do I find my H index? Right? There are ways to find your H index because as an author, I should know what is my H index. So what we can do is we can manually calculate our H index by gathering a list of all our publications, listing them in the order of citation counts, and then finding the point at which the highest number of papers, that is H here we call it, have been cited at least H times, right? Each, at least H times each. A number of research databases will help us to calculate the research index, the H index for us, and these databases are Scopus, Web of Science, Google Scholar, right? So here I'm talking about only science domain because I'm working in science domain. So I'm sorry because I've not collected the data related to other domains, science and commerce, commerce and humanities domain. Okay. So to calculate my H index, I have two options. Either I calculate manually or there are agencies already existing which will calculate the H index for me, right? Again, remember the important part is what here? H index may vary slightly depending on the source. It is not, you will not get unique H index everywhere. As I'll go ahead, you'll observe it, right? Because Web of Science, Scopus, Google Scholar, these are few of the agencies and they all calculate H index as per their indexing style. So it is not unique. Fine? Okay. Now let us start one by one. So first, let us see how Scopus can help us in checking our H index, right? So what you do, just open your Google and type there Scopus author search. Fine. The very first result is Scopus author ID and just click on this. Fine. So once you click on this is the screen what will appear. Here what you can do is you can enter all your details. You can put your last name, your first name, the affiliation, what you put. See, remember when you're putting the affiliation and all, see to it that you put the affiliation which you already used in your research papers. Then only it will appear here, otherwise it will not appear. Fine. And then you can click on search, right? So I've entered my data here, right? The affiliation as Shivaji University. And once I click on search, this is what will appear, right? One author result, the Scopus will show you. Now, here you can see it will show you the author's last name, the first name, and the affiliation, what we had entered there. Fine. And then it will show you the author, the number of documents the author has published, the H index. Remember, see, the H index is 2 here. It shows the H index of the author. So my H index is 2 here. Affiliation is Shivaji University, Kolhapur, and India. Automatically. Fine. So you can click on author's name, fine, to check the further details, right? So as soon as you click on author's name, you can see the Scopus ID generated, right? The Scopus ID already exists. So this is my Scopus ID, which I'll be using next time when I'll go for authors. Fine. Now, this is the metric what shows my research impact. So it is saying there are only 12 documents by the author, because in my introduction you could hear there are 56 or something, I don't remember now, the research papers I have published. But what Scopus is showing, I have only 12 documents. Because when you're writing a research paper and you're submitting to a journal, if the journal is Scopus indexed, so the only 12 papers which are published are Scopus indexed. So I can see only count 12 here. Fine. The number of citations to my research papers, 12 research papers, is 28. Fine. And you can see the H index is 2. This is my research metric. Right. So you can put your name and you can get your data. Fine. So once what I do now, I'll click on documents. Like this document tab I'll click on so that I can see which are the research papers listed under Scopus. Right. So here I have list of papers which are published under Scopus, and see it is sorted date wise. The latest paper will appear first. So there are 0 citations. Still people are supposed to refer my research work. And you can see the detail here. It's a conference paper, right? And I published it along with Dr. Vasa Desai, myself, and Dr. Artik. Right? Similarly, I have the list of research papers which shows the number of citations. Another thing, if you see, I have 12 documents which is cited by 28 other researchers, right? And there are 6 co-authors for my 12 documents. It will also give me the list of my co-authors. Fine. So as you scroll down again, you can see one of the conference paper which I published with Dr. PG Naik from Cyber. You can see the citations is 16 here. Just remember the number 16 because we'll be comparing it when we go to Web of Science and when we go to Google Scholar. Fine. Now, so it gives me the paper along with the citations and all the details of the paper, where it is published, which year it is published, what is the page number, and fine. Now, next what I can do is I can check my citation trend, how the trend is increasing or decreasing. See, it shows the citation. These are the number of citations, these are the documents, and these are the years in which what citations I have received. So you can see your citation graph also. Fine. But remember, it is showing me only 28 citations which are related to my 12 documents. Fine. Okay. Now, if I want to check my H index, again, directly you can just check it. Author's H index is 2. Fine. And it gives me a total citations received. So once I click on this, I get here this author's H index. In detail, I get the citations and the document. The document which I click now here, big data predictive analysis. There was a research paper, right? How many citations? It has 8. So you can see the star mark showing the presence of this. The maximum citations I have is 16, which is here, just above 50, right? So this is a graph which plots the documents and the citations which are. Is it fine? Which is nothing but my H index, right? Which is shown as. Now you can even have in detail citations of your research work, what you have carried out. You can see the graph. The number of citations are 28. It shows year wise in which year how many citations you have, right? And another detail, you can see the list of my co-authors, right? See, I've co-authored my 9 papers where co-author is Dr. R.K. Kamath, 3 papers where co-author is Dr. V.S. Kumbar, and 3 papers with my research student Dr. Priyanka Sinde, and another 2 with my research student, now of course Dr. Vasa Desai, who is already awarded PhD now, fine, and 2 with Dr. PC. It gives you all the detail related to the work what you have carried out. Even you can see the documents here, right, by type, by year, by subject. Is it okay? So you get all in-depth analysis of your research work, what is being published. Remember, here we are considering the research work which is already So this is related to Scopus. Scopus as a tool to analyze your research work and give you the citation index, H index. So as per Scopus, my H index is 2 and the number of citations is 28 and the documents are 12. Fine. Now let us look at another tool to calculate or to check my H index, that is Web of Science. Fine. Again, we'll start with the same thing. Just open your Google, type there Web of Science author search. You can just see here Web of Science author search, right? Click the very first one, what appears. Remember, Scopus was very straightforward. In case of Web of Science, it is a bit complicated. So I'll show you each and every screenshot as you go ahead. So once you click on author search, Web of Science, this is the screen what will appear. Right? Now it will ask you email address, password. We don't have, we are joining it for the first time, right? If you have institutional already associated Web of Science, directly you can log in from here. But right now, directly as a, like I don't have login, my institution is not associated Web of Science. So directly what I'll do, I'll just click on create Publons profile, right? So once I create, click on this, what will happen? It will ask me to register, right? So I put my mail address, my password, and re-enter the password, the first name, the last name, and this captcha. Right? If I'm already a member, I sign in, but I'm not a member. Right now, I'm registering it for the first time. So I put all my details here. And then once I click on register, I get this message. So this is why I'm showing you each and every screenshot so that you all can do it and you can check it and create your own account in Scopus as well as in Web of Science. Now, so it says your registration is confirmed. This is the mail ID what I had given, right? And once I click OK, I get a mail in my mailbox. Right? So I get a mail from Publons. So here they ask you to click here to activate your account. So once you click here, your account is active. Fine. Now, once your account is activated, you can log in using your email ID and the password, whatever you have provided during registration. Fine. So once you register, log in, this is the first screen what appears, right? So here Publons gives you a private dashboard where you can manage your records and your research metrics, right? And the best part is what it is integrated with Web of Science, ORCID, and academic journals, right? So it will be very easy to import all your publications, your citation metrics, peer reviews, and journal editing work in a single dashboard that is in single place, right? So just click on continue. So here again, you can see it will help you demonstrate the impact in funding and promotion applications. Why? Because see your research metrics, the research what you carried out, your H index makes lots of difference whenever you're putting your proposals. So they check like what research work you carried out and what is your H index. That will automatically give you the number of citations also your research work has. So once you click on get started, this is the screen what will appear, right? So it says a private dashboard for me. Fine. I'll be putting my photo and all as I'll be go ahead, I'll show you. Fine. So what all things you can do? You can track your citations, you can manage your reviews, you can set your profile, you can learn how to peer review the research work if it is assigned. Fine. Okay. Now let us create your profile. So I want to create my public profile, right? So what it will ask me the details. I'll upload my image and the details as it goes ahead. You can add your data. Fine. So this will create your public profile, which you can download it and you can share it with others. Now, it will ask me to add the research fields, right? If I have not added any of my research work. Once I click on it, now, when I'm asking it to add my research work, it is asking me from where do I get it, right? As soon as I click on it, on my publications, right? Private dashboard, my publications, it will say it can find 10 matching Web of Science publications. It is already, it could get, right? From the net, the 10 publications which are there in Web of Science publication, right? So if I click on import publication, then those publications will be added to my profile. Getting my point? It will automatically search on the net and it will say there are 10 matching Web of Science publications, right? This matching may be related to my mail ID or it may be my name, what appears there. Now, next what I do is I click on import publications. So as soon as I click on import publications, it will say import from Web of Science, or you can take it from your, you can sync it with the ORCID, or you can import it through the title or DOI. You can also import a file by uploading it, maybe in CSV format, fine. But here what you're working on is you're working with Web of Science. So what I'll do, I'll see first. So they are saying we have found 10 publications that match your email address, right? So what I'll do now, I want to know which are those 10 publications. So I just click on this to check my publications which are there as part of Web of Science. Remember, in case of Scopus, I had 12 publications, right? And in case of Web of Science, the publications had reduced to 10. Now, once I click on this, it will show me the list of publications which are already exist. So now if you see, it is saying there are claiming 0 publications and rejecting 10. So out of this list, I have to click, I have to select like which all are belongs to me and which should be added to my profile. Fine. So I have to read one by one where all my name exists, whether I have published, I have authored it or no. And then once you click on it to select, directly you can see the number changes here, claiming 2 publications, rejecting 8, right? But now all these publications belongs to me. So what I'll do is I'll just say select all. Fine. So once I click on select all, and then I need to click on submit. So all the research publications are added to my CV. Now what I can do is I can export my Publon CV. So this is a PDF file which can be downloaded and which can be used, right? So what it gives. So if you can just see, my Web of Science research ID is already clear, right? I already showed you my Scopus ID. Now this is Web of Science ID created for. So it shows your photo I uploaded. So it shows the name, your research ID, and then it gives you the publication matrix, right? Now, so here it is saying for the manuscripts published from the date range, it will ask you like 2009 to February 2022. So how many items are cited? I have 14 citations. But in case of Scopus, I had 28 citations. I just wanted to compare it, how it differs. In case of Scopus, the total citations were 28. In case of Web of Science, it is 14, right? But the H index is same here. H index is 2 here and H index was 2 in Scopus also. In case of Scopus, publications were 12. Here the publications are 10, right? And out of these 10, all are from Web of Science. Fine. If I want to check all time till now, how many? Then again, the data is exactly same. There is no change for all time. Here I have given the range, but here it is for all time. The data is still same. There is no change. That is 14 citations, 2 H index, and 10 publications. And all the 10 are from Web of Science document. Fine. Now, I just scroll down further in my CV. I can see the publication impact over time. You can see the publications year and the citations, how many times it is cited. This is the publishing summary from March 2009 to February 2022, right? Now, here you can see the list of the research papers which are published along with the number of times it is cited. So you can see few are cited 2 times, right? Now, this paper, prediction of online lecture popularity, was showing 16 in case of Scopus. If you remember, in case of Scopus, it is saying 16, but here it is saying 10. So why it is differing? See, the papers which have cited my work, if they are indexed in Web of Science, then only it will be counted here. Similar in case of Scopus, my research paper, if it is cited by the research paper which is indexed by Scopus, then only it will be counted as a citation in case of Scopus, right? If it is not indexed by Scopus, even if the paper has cited my work, it will not be shown in Scopus index. Similar is the case in case of Web of Science. Is it fine? So it's not like any reference, any site, anyone who is referred your work, it is published in any journal, it will be counted. No. If the paper is published in Scopus, if your paper is already in Scopus index, then only will be counted as citation as part of Scopus. And similar is the case along as in case of Web of Science, that is Publa. Fine. So you can see the difference. There was 16, now here it is saying 10. Fine. Now, so even you can see the dashboard, right? After your this thing, if you just click on citation map in your dashboard, it shows you the detail, like who all have cited your work, from which geographical location the researchers have cited your work, right? So these blue circles, they just show you the detailed geographical locations, like where it is cited. It is shows Spain, right? And then it shows South Korea, it shows India and all. And then again you can see a red mark here. Red mark will give you in detail papers which are published, which has published my work. So details of the research paper, and here it shows where the geographical location where the papers are published. Fine. You can zoom it and you can check it in detail. I'm sorry for the ringtones in between. Okay. Now, next what we have is, how do you log out? So just click on your name and you click on log out. So you'll be out of your Publon details. Okay. I hope how to find your detail is clear in case of Scopus and in case of Web of Science. Fine. And the next what we'll look at is the Google Scholar, one of the easiest way to find your H index. But when you're working on, you're presenting your research proposals and all, they do focus on Scopus and Web of Science. Most of the research funding agencies do not consider your details given by Google Scholar, right? So in case of Google Scholar, to get your details, what you do, go to Google, type Google Scholar, click on My Citations. It will ask you to log in through your Gmail ID. See, remember when you are logging in it through the email ID which you have provided in most of your research work. Then only it will be shown. Fine. Because with your Google Scholar, your mail ID is associated. Fine. Now here you can see it gives you all the details. Now remember this one of the paper which Scopus said 16, right? Web of Science said 10, and Google is saying it is cited 23 times, right? It is Google Scholar Index. It is cited 23 times. Now next, what you have, okay, another paper is 22 times, I think 16, 14. So here you can see number of total citations is 119. But in case of Scopus, it was, I think citations were 12 or something. And in case of Web of Science, it was 10, right? But in case of Google Scholar, I get the count as 119. My H index is 6 here, whereas in case of Scopus and Web of Science, it was 2. I'm just trying to compare the different indexing tools which analyzes your research data and gives a different metrics, right? Everything depends upon what indexing is supported by the funding agency or by your university or college to calculate or to accept your research work, right? Here you can see one more thing, that is I-10 index. I-10 index is given only by Google Scholar, right? It is considered only by Google Scholar. It is not considered by Scopus and Web of Science. Fine. Now, so what is the strength of why H index is so popular? Because it attempts to, what it attempts to do, it attempts to measure both quality and quantity of authors, right? So it includes more than a single data point, that is quality and quantity, easy to calculate and understand. It is very simple. You know, H documents cited H times, then the H index is H. Fine. Now, what are the limitations here? Inaccurate measure of early career research impact. So if you have just published your paper, the chances are very less that you have some H index, because H index is not only number of citations, it is number of papers cited how many times, that will be H index, right? So it is difficult to have H index in your early research publication or early research career, right? It only measures the published works where you have published it. Now, if a specific resource is used, such as Web of Science or Scopus, results are limited to what the tools has indexed. As I already told you the differences. Web of Science uses different tools, Scopus uses different tool, and Google Scholar uses different tools. So the data will vary accordingly, right? So what tool you are using for indexing will give you the result accordingly, fine? But it is better to have your data indexed in Scopus, Web of Science, and Google Scholar. So whenever a funding agency requires something, you directly have your research ID. If you just give a Scopus ID or Web of Science ID, they get the list directly. They get all your research details. Fine. So this is about H index. Another count for your research impact is I-10 index. Right? I-10 index is quality of author's work. Right? So what it does, it counts the number of publications with at least 10 citations. Right? So it will count the number of papers which are cited 10 times. Then your citation index will become 10. Fine. Now, what is the strength of I-10 index? Easy to calculate and understand. It is very simple because which papers are counted 10 times, that is just I-10 index. Right? Google Scholar's My Citation feature is free and easy to use. You see, just don't need to do anything. Directly put your mail ID, it will give you the number of details of your research impact. Now, what are the limitations here? As I already told you, it is used only in Google Scholar. No other indexing agency uses I-10 index, right? It's only Google Scholar. So it is limited to works indexed by Google Scholar only. And it also measures only published. Is it fine? I-10 index. Next, what we have is G index. Now, this also measures both quality and quantity of author's work, but here the stress is given more on quality rather than the quantity, right? So to calculate the G index, what it is done, authors' articles are ranked in decreasing order of the number of citations each received, right? So the paper with highest citation will be numbered 1 and slowly number 2, number 3 and all, decreasing order. The unique largest number such that the top G articles received together at least G raised to 2 citations is the G index. So it is really difficult, right? G square you can say. So what is the strength? It looks at overall record, allows highly cited papers to boost low cited papers. Fine. And what are the limitations? Only measures the published works. This is a limitation of each and every indexing agency, right? And the calculation is too complicated, right? And it is not widely known or accepted as index because we already seen the 3 agencies. We already seen the 3 agencies. We saw Scopus, we saw Web of Science, we saw Google Scholar. None of them used G index. Right? None of them used G index. So among all the 3, if you want to have funding and all, you should have Scopus index. You should have Web of Science, right? And some of them are also useful when you're going for Google Scholar. Okay. Now this is all about our researcher's impact when the work is carried out by a researcher, right? Now, once I've written my paper well and all, I need to select a journal where I should publish my work, right? To select a journal, I need to have a journal impact metric, right? What is the impact of the journal? To analyze the important, how important, good the journal is. So you have journal's impact factor also, right? So impact factor means the impact factor of a journal is calculated by dividing the number of current year citations to the source items published in that journal during the previous 2 years. Remember, you need 3 years data here to calculate the impact factor of a journal, right? Because you'll be considering 2 previous years publications, right? So hence the impact factor can be calculated after completing the minimum of 3 years of publication, right? So you can calculate, some of journals even calculate yearly, right? So those journals are indexed in Thomson Reuters, Journal Citation Reports, Clarivate, etc. So some are calculating after 3 years, but some journals or some indexing agencies are calculating it on yearly basis. Right? That is journals impact. So most important basis for selection of journals. So impact factor is really very important to select a journal, right? Because as a journal level metric, it is frequently used as a proxy for the relative importance of a journal within its field, the domain where the journal is published, right? So journals with high impact factor values are given status of being more important, or they carry more prestige in their field, right? So it is why the impact factor is important, because most of the times it is used by our universities and funding bodies to decide on promotion and research proposals, that is the project proposals what we submit, right? So it's the measure of the reputation of a journal, a measure of the frequency with which the average article in a journal has been cited in a particular year. Fine. So if you say a published article is cited one time, then it denotes one impact factor as 1. Similarly, the article is cited 2.5 times, and it implies the impact factor as 2.5. Right? So journals with high impact factors are notable than those with the low impact factors. Right? So it acts as a measuring medium for the number of citations received by articles in a particular journal. So it is quantitative tool for ranking, evaluating, categorizing, and comparing journals. Right? So high impact factor, the journal is good. Low impact factor, the journal is not. Fine. It still needs to go ahead. Now, how do we calculate the impact factor of a journal? It's a simple example, right? So now if I want to calculate the impact factor of a journal in 1992, impact factor of a journal in the year 1992, then what I need total citations of the journal in 1992, and then 1992 cites to the articles. In 1992, how many articles which are published in 1990 and 1991 are being cited, right? It gives the count. And then number of articles which are actually published in the year 1990 and in the year 1990. So to calculate the impact factor, what I'll have, total citations divided by number of articles which are published. That will give me that year's impact factor. Let us look at an example. Let us suppose I want to calculate the impact factor of a journal in the year 2021, right? The impact factor 2021, what I have, citations to that journal of citations of the journal in 2020 and number of citations to the articles which are published in 2020 and 2019 divided by published papers in 2020 plus published papers in 2009, right? So what you're getting my point, in to calculate the impact factor in 2021, I should know the citations of the papers which are published in 2020 and the citations which are published in 2019, right? Divided by the papers actually published in 2020 and 2009. So suppose the citations to my publications which are carried out in 2020 is 1450, and the papers which are published in 2019, the citations is 1550, right? And the total number of papers which are published in 2020 were 150, and papers published in 2019 were 260, right? So once you add this and divide it, you get the impact factor of the journal for the year 2021 is 4.878. So this means the impact factor of the journal changes every year. Every year the impact factor needs to be calculated. Fine. Now, how do we decide the impact factor? Who gives the impact factor to the journal? So there are agencies which are globally recognized for analyzing and releasing the impact factor of the journals. And those are Thomson Reuters, the Institute of Scientific Information, that is ISR, your General Citation Reports, that is JCR, your Scopus, your Science Citation Index, then your Social Science Citation Index, and the Clarivate Analytics, what we already saw in Web of Science, right? So these are the agencies which are recognized globally, and they analyze and release the impact factor of the journals. Right? There are some journals which are already existing on the internet. They declare their own impact factor. Right? There are self-declaration of impact factor by the journals, and it is not valid. So do not select such journals for your research work. Right? It will not be considered. Now, impact factor depends on what? How do you get the good impact factor? So it depends on the number of papers published and citations. How many papers are published in the journal and how many citations those papers are having. Next is what? Presence in various indexing services like Indexing services may be Scopus, Web of Science, Google Scholar, and all. As I said, there are few papers only which are indexed in Scopus, few papers which are indexed in Web of Science. Now, frequency of publication of journal. The journal publications may be on yearly basis, it may be on 6 months, that is, it may be quarterly basis, or it may be on every month, every monthly basis, right? So it also depends on that. The journal may be online nature, or then it will have wide dissemination. So your research work, which is published in a journal which is in online mode, it will have more vision, right? It is more available and people can cite your work. Publishers' policies of self-citation. Now, self-citation is what? I have published my paper some 2 years back. Now I'm writing a new research paper, and my new research papers, what I'm doing, I'm referring my own previous research paper and citing them. That is self-citation, right? So some of the publishers allow self-citation, some publishers do not allow. And again, it also depends on the nature of journals. That is, either it is only a review journal or it is interdisciplinary, right? Because some of the review journals have more citations because people want to go for the review papers because it has all the collection of the research of what is carried out. And some are interdisciplinary, so they have more citations, right? These are the ways, depending on the nature of the journals, the impact factor also changes. There are some miscellaneous factors also associated, like the manuscript, the presentation, the editorial quality, and all, right? So impact factor has many things associated with it when you're talking about journals. Now, impact factor in academic recognition. As we all are teachers, it is really important for us because when you're filling your API, that is academic performance indicator, which every year we fill, and even we fill it whenever we want to go for cash promotions, right? So there is criteria 3, which is related to your research work. So what it asks you the paper with impact factor less than 1. If the impact factor of your paper is less than 1, then you can get only 5 points. But if the paper with the impact factor is between 1 and 2, then you get 10 points. Now here when I'm saying paper with impact factor, paper don't have impact factor. Impact factor is associated with the journal. So my paper which is published in the journal, if the journal impact factor is less than 1, then I have 5 points. If the journal where my paper is published has the impact factor between 1 and 2, then I get 10 points. Similarly, if the paper is published in a journal whose impact factor is about 10, then I get 25 points, right? So you see how important is the impact factor of a journal where you publish your research. Fine. Now, we are talking about self-citations. So self-citations from a cited only journals are not included in its impact factor calculation. Now, actually 13% of the citations that a journal receives are self-citation. Some of the journals, because everyone wants to increase their citation, so what they do, they cite their own work. So 13% of the citations what a journal receives are all self-citation. So you need to find out the journals we do not include self-citation to calculate their impact factor, right? So you can identify by checking the journal citation report, which is citing journal list. Right? Now, how to calculate the impact factor excluding the self-citation? Again, the metric is same. You have A, which is citations in 1992 to articles published in 1990 and 1991. Then you have the self-citations of the articles which are published in 1990 and 1991. You just subtract the citations from the self-citations are subtracted from the total citations, right? And then you calculate the number of articles published in those 2 years, and then you can calculate C divided by D, which gives you the revised impact factor. Fine. So you can see here the revised impact. As a simple example here, suppose I have 224 citations in the last 2 years, publications of last 2 years, and then I have 54 self-citations. What I'll do, I'll subtract this 54 from the actual citations. So total citations, what I get is 170. And the number of research papers published in those 2 years, 1990 and 1991, is 160. So I calculate the impact factor, right, by total number of citations divided by total research papers, which I get it as 1.4655, which is rounded up to 1.46. So this is revised impact factor. So some journals or indexing agencies exclude self-citations and some indexing agencies allow self-citation. Fine. Now you can see when you click on any of the journal website, you can see the details of the journal there itself. You can see the impact factor. Now here I have opened IEEE transaction image processing, right? So here the impact factor is 10.856. Here it is talking about the Egan factor. Some have, some don't have it. So I'm not spoken about it. Then it has article influence score. Then it has site score and all. But what is important for us, when you are doing your academic submissions and all, they'll be asking you the impact factor, right? This is one of the way. Another way is if you open some other journal like Hindi, it is also Scopus Index, a very good journal. So here it will give you acceptance rate, submission to final decision, then acceptance to publication, your site score, journal citation indicator, and the impact factor here is 4.23. Fine. So everyone has their own way of putting their data on the net about their abstracting and indexing. Usually, whenever you open any journal website, there is a tab related to indexing. So just click on that tab, you'll get all the details. Fine. Now, before going ahead, in short, what is required is carry out a good work, publish it in good journal with a good impact factor, and see to it that you start your work early. Because most of the times when you're doing your research work, when you're doing your PhD, you are in hurry to get your paper published because otherwise you cannot submit your spiral copy. In that case, what we do, we pay lots of money to get our work published. Though we have put our hard efforts in it, but due to scarcity of time, you pay lots of money to get your paper published. See to it that you start your work early, prepare a paper and submit it in a good impact factor journal without paying a single penny. You don't need to pay anything, right? So just search and target a good journal and give justice to the hard work what you have carried out to do your research, right? Now, this was all related to general impact and other impact, right? Now, next, sometimes when you're doing research, it becomes a mess to handle all the research resources, what you have used, where your paper is published, which are the journals already existing and all. So you have a tool, right, which is called Zotero. I'm not giving the detailing of the tool, but I've just introduced it to you so that you all can download it and work on it. Why? Because it is free, it is easy to use tool. It will help us to collect, organize, cite, and share research, right? So in short, it's a software that will help you to save, manage, and cite your research sources. So go to Google, just type Zotero there, right? And click on this. So here itself, it says your personal research assistant. I'll recommend you all to download it, at least for all the researchers. So the researching is easy and it helps you in keeping the track also. So once you click on it, you get this screen. Fine. So what you do, directly click on download. It won't take much space, right? Download the research personal assistant. Once you download it, once you click on download, these are the screens what will appear. Just click on next. Now, it is recommended that you install only the standard version. Don't go for custom, right? Because it is recommended for experienced users. So by default, standard will be selected. So just click on next again. Now, you can select where you want this software to be installed, right? So give the path. By default, the path will be C:. If you want to change it, you can change it and then just click on install. Fine. Once you click on install, installation will be done and Zotero is now ready to be launched. Fine. Now, as soon as you install it and launch it, you get one more option. What you can do is you can install the Zotero connector for your Microsoft Edge browser, because right now we are using Microsoft. I was using Microsoft Edge. So it provides a connector. So it can be connected with my browser. So as I browse my research papers, I can directly add it to Zotero. I don't need to download it in a folder and then again check it where it is stored. Directly I can add it to my Zotero account. Fine. So you can install it. The connector, you can install it. Just click on get here and say add extension. Fine. So once you click on add extension, it will be added. You can just click on this is my Microsoft Edge browser. You can see once you click on this, you can see Zotero connector. It is being added. The extension is. This is mainly for the research students to manage their research work. Fine. Now, just click on the installed version of your Zotero. It gives you this interface. Fine. You can click on my publication. If you add downloaded duplicate items, it will be removed, right? You can even unify the items. Some research papers can be put into a single directory related to particular domain. Fine. And you can delete and put it in a trash. Now, if you want to add something, just click on this plus symbol, right? You can create your library. So here you can add book, you can add book section, that may be the book chapter, what you do. You can add any document, you can add your journal article or newspaper article. Fine. Now, what you do is, here I'll just click on book. I'll not give you the detail, but just introduce you to the interface. So once you click on book, it will ask you all these details, right? The title, the author, abstract, series, all the details, volume, place, publisher, date, number of pages, and all. So if you have published a book, you can put all your details there. So your data set gets ready. Anytime you need the details, just open Zotero and you'll have the data set. Fine. And similarly, you can click on the research articles, book chapters and all, and you can create your own library of your publication. Fine. Thank you. I hope the concepts of research impact of author and research impact of journal is clear. If you have any questions, I'm open to it.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, I request all the participants, if you are having any queries, you can unmute yourself and you can ask the questions to ma'am. So, any queries?
They are still to work on it to get the queries.
Yes, ma'am.
They have to create their accounts now in Scopus, Web of Science. Then they have to install Zotero. So queries will come after a few months, I think.
Yes. So participants, even you can
Actually, this is Dr. Davle. I attended Madam's session. I don't have a question, but I really liked the session. I attended completely, and it was really worth it. I think, because these all sets of information are very important for the students who are pursuing PhD studies or PG. Because if they didn't know this, then they might actually be directed to the wrong path, at least in the term of publications. So this information is really important. I mean, all people who are in the area of academics, who are pursuing their careers in academics, they should be knowing this information. So thank you so much, ma'am. Actually, like, I'm an external member, but I really, like, I really enjoyed your session. It was very important. I really
That
liked
is the best. That's the best thing, sir, what I could get from a renowned person appreciating the lecture. Thank you so much, sir. Because
welcome,
I
ma'am.
know the knowledge there.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Any other participant wants to discuss any queries? Okay. I think the people are not, they will contact you later for the queries. So we'll wait for them. Okay. So without making delay, okay, I will just want to conclude it. So thank you, ma'am. Before that, any participant want to give any feedback or reviews for today's both sessions, you are welcome here. So anyone regarding reviews and feedbacks? Okay, so you can unmute yourself and you can give the feedbacks. Okay, so many people are texting here that they are saying thank you and all the feedbacks related to the session. So hope everyone enjoys the session. So now, without making any delays, I hand over the session to VP Desai ma'am to conclude it. Ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Kalyani ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. You can proceed for vote of thanks.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, good afternoon, one and all. I'm Dr. Varsha Desai, and it's my immense pleasure to propose a vote of thanks for this session. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Oza ma'am for sharing valuable knowledge with us. Ma'am, you have explained importance of impact factor, citation, indexing very nicely, ma'am. It helps all the participants to improve quality of their research work and its recognitions. And I can say proudly, I'm a student of, research student of Dr. Oza ma'am. I'm always blessed with her guidance and motivation all the time. And we know that madam actually very busy in her daily routine and academic schedule. But still, madam, you have accepted our invitation and spent valuable time with us. So on behalf of VPIMSR, once again, I would like to thanks for your guidance. So big clap for Dr. Oza madam on behalf of VPIMSR and all the participants. Now, I would like to thank RIT College, Islampur for giving permission to organize this workshop under lead college activity. I thank our Honorable Principal Dr. R. Shinde sir, Professor in charge Dr. M. Ali sir, Dr. R. M. Letti sir for their motivation and support. I would like to thank all the participants for their huge response and active participation to make this workshop successful. And here we have get them 400, more than 400 responses we get, and more than 400 registrations for this workshop. So thank you all the participants. Last but not least, I would like to thank all my dear colleagues, office supporting and technical staff for their cooperation. So thank you very much all. Now it's kind request to all the participants to submit the feedback form. The link is shared in the chat box. You will get the participation certificate on your registered email address. And the participant, one more thing I want to inform here. That is, we are happy to inform you that VPMs are organizing international conference on 23rd of March 2020. So we have already sent the conference voucher on our WhatsApp group where you have registered for this workshop. So now once again, we are inviting you all for the conference and contribute your research work. And through this workshop, hope you have got most of the ideas about the quality research, and hope you get some details about how to write the quality research paper and scientific method for doing so. So see you all on 23rd of March. So thank you. Thank you everyone. Thank you Dr. Dhole sir. Thank you Dr. Oza madam for your valuable time. Thank you everyone. Now I declare this workshop is over. Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Yes, participant.
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. I hope all the participant has received the feedback link. Okay. So please give the feedback. Your feedbacks are precious to us. So give the feedback as per the link has already shared to you. Okay. Thank you all.
And